if the FBI, CIA, and this goes to reasonable, no proof, but if all those people wanted him dead, they wouldn't have a 20-year-old kid up there with an AR and a red dot sight, which is what I heard it was. They'd have me at 400 yards.
And when you say you like that? Yeah, I think you look like $1 million. You think you sound good? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I think I'm good to go as long as I sound good to y'all.
Yeah, you sound really, really good.
Okay.
And you got the romantic background.
Well, it is pretty sexy.
Better yet, you look good.
Did you notice that there was a little bit of feedback from the live thing regarding our volume being low?
That was at the beginning because Lennon didn't pay attention and follow his fucking checklist.
Lennon,
Follow the checklist.
that one's on you.
Well, I don't have a checklist.
But I mean, 25 years, that's a lifetime, dude.
I'm old.
My wife is 27. How's that make you feel?
My wife's 15 years younger than me. Yeah.
My wife is 13 years older than me.
Oh, nice.
Well, if she were here, we'd be like,
Yeah.
But that's nice too.
Right.
You're 25 years in law enforcement. There's so many things written down here. Why don't you just tell me? Give me your bio in the most user friendly way.
Sure. Real quick, grew up in Ardmore, Oklahoma. Went to college, Oklahoma State.
Go Pokes.
Go Pokes. Made pretty good grades right up until I discovered beer and rodeo.
That'll happen.
At which time I joined the Army and then let my parents know.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's one of those. Well, don't sign anything. I said, Dad, I've already raised my hand and signed a piece of paper. I leave in August.
Was he military too? Did you?
Yes.
You had a background,
yes.
a family background.
Both my dads were.
So he knew.
Military. Oh yeah, Vietnam era.
Yeah.
So that was a fun time. So got in regular Army, had a good time. Went to Desert Storm, got to go all over the world.
So you were in Desert Storm.
Yes, I was in Desert Storm.
I'm not going to tell you what I was doing during Desert Storm. I don't want to make you feel bad.
Yeah.
But what did you do over there? What was your role? What did you do?
So I had multiple jobs in that time in the military. So at the time, young private first class to specialist, I was a truck driver in a water point platoon. So basically, during Desert Storm, we followed the 24th ID around and made sure they had something to drink after they got through fighting.
Wow.
Give them showers every once
And so
in a
how
while.
how many deployments did you do for that?
So that's just one.
Right.
So
yeah.
because I ETA into time and service in 91, so it was 90, 91 was the war, so they had to get me back home so I could get out. And then when I got out, I stayed in the National Guard there at Stillwater, so I went infantry and did the infantry thing, first in 179, and had a good time with that. A lot of sweating, a lot of bug bites.
Wow. Did you get deployed with them?
I didn't get deployed with them, but shortly thereafter, I started working for a little county, Johnston County, down in the south as a dispatcher and a reserve deputy and stuff, just to see what I thought. And I said, man, I like this law enforcement stuff. So I applied, and in 96, I was accepted and started at Norman Police Department.
Wow.
And there's a long way to Stillwater, so I went artillery.
Okay.
And that way I was down around, in Duncan and Chickasha and Anadarko, those
War,
armories.
warheads on foreheads.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
artillery.
I worked
exactly.
with an artillery unit once years ago with one of my other task forces. Those guys were badass.
King of battle,
Yeah.
for all my infantry friends out there. I went from
Yeah.
a queen to a king. It's 2024.
Yeah.
We were doing something with it was related to protesters, and I'm not military, so I was talking with him about kind of rules of engagement, and there was Secret Service there was other local law enforcement, some other federal, but there was an artillery unit was there in the United States, and I was just asking him, what's the difference? Why are you guys here? Like, what are you going to do that they won't do? He said, well, I'll tell you, man. I mean, this is artillery, one of the artillery guys. He said, if that Secret Service agent goes out there and he's talking to a protester, he's going to de-escalate. He's going to push him back. And if he feels that his life is in danger, he'll probably shoot him. Or if he has to defend somebody, but he's going to talk him down. He's going to give orders. He goes, if I go out there, I'm telling them one time to back away, and if they don't answer or if they don't follow command, I'm shooting them.
My guys were
I was
pretty.
like, Jesus Christ, man!
Yeah.
You should probably stay in this building, dude. I don't want you to go out there. I mean, it was pretty hardcore. I mean,
Combat arms, the combat arms guys are a little aggressive, but they have to be. We have to be.
right.
You know, and
Right.
I was artillery. When I retired, I was a first sergeant of an artillery battery. Had a great time there. But during that time, I was deployed during Iraqi freedom. Went over there,
Okay.
and we didn't have an artillery mission, so they grab up all the cops out of the battalion, and we went over there to train Iraqi police and how to be policemen, basically.
Sure.
No kidding. No kidding. And so you're the beginning of your police career with Norman, which is just south of here,
South
Oklahoma
of-
City, covers University of Oklahoma, pretty much the majority of the county, right? How those first years go?
Oh, they went great. I mean, Norman's a great place to work because you have opportunities. So I got the opportunity to be in patrol, which is where you should start, you know, to pay your dues. I enjoyed that. Got on the SWAT team. I enjoyed that. I was on entry for a couple years, and then I went to sniper, and I was a sniper for 10 years. Ended as a lead sniper, and we did some pretty fun stuff.
Yeah, and Norman's great because it's like, I think it's the second largest little city in Oklahoma outside of
Is that what they say?
yeah.
Landmass.
I've worked there for
Yeah,
15
sure.
years. Never heard that. That's pretty
Well,
good though. Yeah.
Norman's cool because you get a lot of good experience. There's a kind of a city style call volume, but it still feels like a small town, or at least it did, 20 years ago. And then there's a major university there, and so from a long gun guy, there's definitely lots of opportunity for training and potential direct action stuff too.
Oh yeah, we were having call outs constantly when I first got on, and then I was an undercover narcotics detective at the same time, and that's when methamphetamine was a big deal, and so we were doing labs all the time, breaking in there. SWAT team would come out, we'd have cover on the labs while we hit it. The team would actually go in all suited up. You think you're sweaty.
Sure.
Wait till you're in one of those Tyvek suits with all your gear on. You
Yeah.
get pretty sweaty. But, that was a good time. And then you had the opportunity to promote, and I promoted up. I ended up
Right.
supervising out at narcotics and then supervising in patrol. I was administrative commander on the bomb squad for a little bit, so I got to do a little training there.
Yeah.
One of my mentors is a sniper. His name's George Malden. I mean, he was hot.
Yeah.
And so he taught me a lot. And it's not just shooting. It's, navigating in the dark, using only your handhelds and stuff and finding the objective because they'd give you a point and go and things like that. So I learned a lot from those guys, and then I tried to pass some of that on.
So when you become a sniper on a tactical team, what kind of training does somebody go through to be a sniper for a law enforcement SWAT team?
In my case, I mean, obviously you'll go to sniper school, but having been to subgun school because you're entry, we carried MP5s, beautiful weapon system. But then you'll go to sniper, and then the rest of it's on the job training. So you'll end up being a spotter first. So you'll be a baby sniper. You'll go out with the guy that's on the trigger. You'll see how he does things. He'll show you little tricks of the trade, and then after a while, once you get pretty comfortable with it, obviously you have to be able to shoot better than your average bear. And I grew up hunting, and so it wasn't that difficult to me. I'd already had quite a few years in the military, and I was also a squad designated marksman in the military. So I taught firearms in the military as well. So between that and just learning how to shoot all platforms. So I was on the pistol team. I shot competitively in the military and at Norman PD on the pistol, and a lot of those mechanics are the same. So everything I was doing was reinforcing my sniper position and the job that I would do there.
When you say sniper school, I mean you can't just go down to your local tech center or university and enroll in sniper school.
Yeah, Votech doesn't offer
what is
sniper
a
school.
Yeah, what is a
there-
sniper
there-
school?
There are any number of sniper schools out there. The sniper that you work with has been to a lot of schools. I don't know if we're allowed to say his name or not, but
I think we can keep his name out, but yeah, not only been to a lot of those schools, but he teaches
teaching
at
them.
these schools now.
yeah, he's teaching a lot of these schools, so he is hot. But you can just go to any number of these schools, and if you're in the law enforcement community, you get advertisements and everything all the time. to say, hey, come shoot here.
It's usually like a 7-day class. It's very involved. I helped assist with one of those courses recently, and it starts from a very educational level, understanding the mechanics of your weapons platform, and then learning, things like dope and range finding and wind calibration,
Ballistics.
and ballistics, all of that kind of stuff. And then it moves into shooting, and there's a lot of shooting.
Lots of shooting.
And there's lots of shooting from stable platforms, all kinds of different positions, under high stress. They do things to get their heart rate up. They shoot. Target acquisition is really
Target ID.
Yep.
Then all of that is huge. And one of my sniper partners over the years, good guy, he's a deputy chief at a local agency now. He said, you shoot out to 500 yards, and that is science. All the things you do on your dope and everything else. You get out past 500 yards, it's an art. And these guys are making shots like the Canadian sniper that made the ridiculous shot
Right.
of almost 2 miles or
Right.
whatever. And then you got Chris Kyle. His was over a mile, about 1.25 miles. You know, I know and there's many, many other snipers that make crazy stuff. But those guys are taking into account the rotation of the earth and things like that.
Well,
it's crazy.
and like you said, that's science, but
is-
you can't underestimate either. And I'm kind of talking out of my ass here because I'm certainly not a sniper. I'm a medic, but military sniper operations in the theater of war and law enforcement sniper operations are very different. And I would say that the law enforcement side of sniper operations carry way more risk than anything else because everybody's a civilian. And typically, if you are a sniper for a law enforcement agency or attack team that gets brought in to do something, there's going to be civilian lives all around. The rules of engagement is different. These, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's more important than being able to plink a target at 500 meters.
Yeah, in the military, you have acceptable collateral damage.
Yeah.
In law enforcement, you cannot have collateral damage that's acceptable. You cannot hit somebody you're not aiming at, and you're responsible. We teach baby cops on up. From the time that bullet leaves that gun until it stops, you're responsible
Every
for
round.
that bullet.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, there is a big difference between the military side and the law enforcement side as it comes to that.
Let's get back through kind of the rest of your career because
Sure.
it's a lot for me to read.
Yeah, I apologize. Yeah,
No.
I don't.
And so no, I just mean it's a hell of a resume. And so when you get on the SWAT team, how do you spend the rest of your career at Norman PD?
Well, we have a part-time team, so you just wait for the call to come. Now, as far as training and stuff, oftentimes we train separately from entry, so they're doing their dynamic entries, they're doing their barricaded person, they're doing phone delivery, etc., and then we're out practicing our field craft. part of our mission as snipers, and it's getting a little bit off, but not only were we responsible for the shoot part, but I had a different type of rifle, FNFAL, that when we went on manhunts in fields and stuff, I would carry that, and we would be security for the dog, and we also practiced tracking. So if we didn't have a dog or anything, back to the hunting. My partner was a big hunter, I was a big hunter, and we could sit there and we could look to see the steps. We'd measure out what his bad guy's obvious step would be. We would take that stick and we'd lay it until we found the next sign. And it's very painstaking, and the guy that's doing the tracking, he can't be paying attention, so he has to have cover. So that'd be a lot of what we did too.
Right,
But the
right.
field
I
craft,
didn't
being
know
able
that.
to sneak up on somebody, ingress and egress. I mean, there's a
Well, and it's comforting because I'm attached to the entry side of stuff, and we've got these Overwatch positions that are often relaying information back to us because we may be up close, but on a wall or whatever, trying to establish some negotiations or figure out our plan of what we're going to do, and we've got a sniper, usually 2 or 3 that are off, a distance away, but are able to see in the house. They're able to feedback communication of, okay, this person's in the kitchen now, or they're talking to a hostage, or if this is like a hostage type deal, so maybe there's family
Right,
or
right.
kids or somebody in the house. And because civilian SWAT, we can't underestimate that. Like a lot of it's not just kicking doors and running in and catching bad guys. A lot of it is barricaded subjects, hostage rescue type stuff, and so we have time is on our side in those types of situations.
Yeah.
So 90% of our job as snipers would be intel gathering. They would ask us questions. Hey, what's side 3 look like? What's side 2 look like? Do we have any type of ingress point there? Blah, blah, blah.
Right. And so for civilian law enforcement, big city departments, I mean, you say Norman's like a big little city. It's big enough to have a badass SWAT team. But you got city departments, you got sheriff departments,
Sure.
that could have TAC teams all across the country. And then you can have some, right, that are kind of conglomerates,
Yes.
that where you get multiple forces, kind of more of a task force type SWAT team where they're kind of joined together. But when you have a patrolman, your average patrolman, at least today, maybe not way back then, would at least be carrying a pistol of some sort. And today, most of them carry an AR or something like some high-powered long
Yes.
gun, but with a big magazine, something that can be a little fired a little bit more rapidly. Snipers are carrying something different. What do you guys normally carry?
Well,
or I shouldn't say carrying, but what is your normal firearm for that?
So often it's kind of a sniper preference almost. I mean, we got a lot of leeway when we went to selecting your firearms, and most of us have our own personal firearms. Now, they can issue you one, or because we're going to trick out our platform as much as we can to make it shoot the way we want it to shoot. And so personally, I carried the trusty Remington Model 700 308.
308.
And
that's what I hunt with.
little
Yeah.
3x9 loophole on top of it.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy. And again, you had that one photo that we staged, but during not competitions, but during when we had play day and people come out and look at what the
Sure.
team does and stuff, and they would do entry would blow up a door and run through.
Right, yeah.
Well, our thing was we would shoot holes and dimes at 100 yards
Yeah.
and then give them out as a little souvenir.
Right.
So when you're shooting a hole through a dime, I mean, you've got to be able to.
So what's this piece here?
No, that's now obvious. That's a Remington 700.
That's a 700.
Well-
That doesn't look like the 700 I carry.
No.
I used to hunt deer.
Yeah, no. So again, we definitely trick out our stuff.
There's
a little
probably
bit.
one part of that rifle, and this is
Well, it would probably
a
just
little
be the
di-
bolt.
little different.
I mean,
but
that
there's one part that's the original to the.
The action. The action
Yeah,
of
just-
the barrel's the
just-
only thing original on that.
Yeah.
Everything else, we pretty up.
And so what makes a 700? That thing's been around forever. What makes that the trusted go to for so many long gun operations?
Just because it's reliable. The
reliability.
308 rounds, so diverse. You can get any type of bullets for it, whatever yours likes to eat. And I will tell you, not every 700 is like that. So that's like my third or fourth 700. You'll get one,
Right.
you'll shoot it, you'll be like, nah, can't do it. I mean, a lot of people want to be able to shoot minute of angle, so you're 1 inch at 100 yards, 1 inch hole. I need more than that. So you're going to have to go through a lot of rifles till you find one that likes the 168 grain boat tail hot hollow point match ammo. And once you find one that likes to eat it, you can't tear
So
it away
you
from the
mean
sniper.
it could be the same exact model, but just two different 700s, and they'll shoot differently.
Yep. Everything likes to eat different bullets, and until I found one that liked to eat those bullets, because that's what I like to use on mission, just, okay, next.
Yeah.
And eventually you find your baby, and then that's what you hang on to. For,
Yeah.
So I can tell you that my deer rifle is straight off the shelf, and it's a little bit of a cheaper one because my 700 is it's kind of got some composite to it. It's obviously not as sturdy. But what would a sniper do when they take a 700 off the shelf? What would they do to it to turn it into something that is like that?
You can take it. You can take it and have the gunsmith look at it, work on it. I mean, you're going to true your bolt. Make sure that it bolts up true and nice and flat. And you're going to float the barrel like on that. You're not going to have anything touching the barrel. Get whatever glass you want. I like the loophole. Some guys like the Swarovski. Some guys do. I mean, there's just any number of really good scopes out there. It's just what you grew up with. And then, stock preference, do you like a drop stock? I like a larger hand swell. So mine has a little larger hand swell because as sniper, we had to shoot them left-handed and right-handed. And then we had to shoot our partners. And there's certain tolerances. So I'd have to be able to shoot my partners almost as well as I shoot my own.
No
and
kidding.
vice versa. And then we have to shoot left-handed, obviously, because you don't know what position you're going to be in when it comes time to squeeze one off. So, and 100 yards, chip shot,
Right, right. And so you guys, you get this trusted a true firearm. You're doing gunsmithing to it. You're adding pretty much every badass addition that you can to it that's going to increase
Accuracy.
all for accuracy.
Yeah, accuracy enhancers. I don't care if the joke is with military and police, if it's black and got Velcro on it, they'll pay money for it. Because this is
Tactical,
cool.
baby, tactical.
Yeah, that's it. And tactical is a thing.
And comfortability is important too, right? I mean, because
Yes.
sometimes you're sitting on sitting on that glass for hours at a time, and fatigue plays a part into
Huge.
all this kinds of stuff. Or
Right,
if you're
right.
having to ruck your, like he said, if you're on a field search and you're moving your way up to a target, and maybe you've got a 200 or 300 meter slow advancement.
Sure.
That's after the 2-mile walk in, and then
Yeah.
you start your creep.
Right.
And once you start your creep, it can take a long time. So we'd start 4, 5, 6 hours before entry, even headed that way
No
to get
kidding.
in position because we wanted to be in position when they got there to provide overwatch and to feed them intel.
But when you have this rifle and it's sighted in, it's solid. You know that you're shooting whatever your specs are that you want. What is the range that you are? What are you sighting this in at?
Okay,
Let
well,
me-
I'm
let me-
gonna
let me- let me ask
as a
that.
police officer, I'm sighting it in at 100 because we're going to be in an urban environment. You don't have to, make a whole lot of movement on it. That rifle I've shot out to 1,000 yards in New Mexico and hit with it because I had the dope, I had it shimmed, I had all that stuff done to it. But for a straight old cop, 100 yards and closer is going to be your shot, just because you're not going to get that much opportunity. Now, like you said on Norman, we've got lots of rural. I mean, 198 square miles is the city limits of Norman, something like that. So you have to be able to go past that. But even in the out east operations, what we call them in the country, I'm going to be within 200 yards easy every time.
Sure,
because I can
sure.
sneak that close.
And so going from a sighting of 100 to shooting at 200 is minor adjustment.
Mine is 2 inches, 8 clicks.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you're
And so,
there.
so in your career, working law enforcement, working civilian, tactical responses. What are the standard kind? I don't know if you call them missions or not, but what are your standard type of call outs that a local, whether it be sheriff or PD, that law enforcement would respond to in the United States?
High risk warrant service, we'd send the guys in. The obvious barricaded person, usually those are mental health consumers who, like, time's on our side. We'll get the negotiators in there. We'll try to talk them out. But again, meth labs, anything where you anticipate armed resistance, they'll be there. And those are pretty much the majority of them. Barricaded somebody.
Domestic issues that has, you can call it hostage, but you got a barricaded subject who has his family still in the house.
Sure. What about large gatherings and stuff like that? Is that also something that you guys work with?
It is. So when you go to a football game or any big game like that at any major town, there's about 100% chance that there's a SWAT team staged and that there are snipers overwatching that. So
Oh, sure. Yeah, you can see them up there. And what's their main objective? What are they there
Well,
for?
there'll be intel gathering, and then say something goes down, then they will be able to search the section. So we'll have range cards, just like in the military. We have range cards, and we'll be able to say, okay, section 6, rote C, seat, whatever, and you'll be able to go to that general area. And we'll go with binoculars first, see if we can find what it is, see if it's a problem. And again, we're back to intel gathering. That doesn't have
Lots
to be
of
a
intel
massive
gathering.
shooter, but okay, hey, we've got a medical situation over here. Let somebody know there's a medical situation. Hey, we got a fight over here. Not that it involves a SWAT response, but send a couple guys down there to break up the drunks.
Yeah.
So
But there's usually an emergency action team somewhere close
Oh, yeah.
that Overwatch guy can give some info to. But yeah, anywhere there's a large gathering, there's probably an Overwatch, at least one.
And that's not unique to
around.
here. Obviously,
No.
this is all across the country. NFL
no.
games,
guaranteed. I think
you know,
guaranteed they're at the NFL games. Most of your big colleges are going to have them. But why wouldn't you?
So I had Lennon pull up this picture. I mean, this is just a simple
Yeah.
Google search. I don't know. Is that
Looks
LA?
like Colts.
Is that Colts?
I think that's a Colts.
And so this is normal. This is not Super Bowl necessarily.
Right. Every game.
This is every game.
Every game. So, I'm not going to reveal where the snipers are
sure.
in any local teams. But, they try to be as discreet as possible because we don't want to worry people. But I think most people know that you're going to have a lot of law enforcement.
Right.
Because
And-
crazy things happen at football games. We had a
Oh,
guy blow himself up at a football game at OU. Years ago.
Yeah, I think that they ultimately ruled that was.
It was a
not
horrible accident.
That was just an accident.
It was a horrible. We're
And
not going to
it
go there.
quietly went away. I think.
I don't know why I'm feeling caught off guard because I feel like I'm not allowed to talk about that. I feel like
Same.
my whole career there, it's been, and we can wipe this out, but I feel like my whole career there, that's been like,
Yeah, he made
no, pull that back up. For me.
could have potentially made 3 attempts to enter gates,
Yeah.
and then it
But
took 2 days to clear his apartment with secondary incendiary
now
devices.
that being said, the bomb squad that was in there,
Yeah.
Right.
I'm telling you, the particular explosive he used,
Yeah.
that's easily findable on the internet, but I won't-
Especially now.
yeah. Okay, so TATP, very delicate. That is not something you want to go running into.
Yeah.
Back in the day, the bikers, Hell's Angels guys, they put TATP wet. It's okay. They crinkle it up in tinfoil.
Yep.
And then when the guys were searching, they think there might be drugs in there. They start to open it, and
boom.
just the friction from opening it, boom, blow them. So it's very
That's a dick
it's
move.
very sensitive. So we want to avoid that. Apparently, it will go off in your backpack when you open it up and look over the top of it.
And then landscape keepers will find your ears 2 months later as
Yeah.
on tops of buses.
So, so what can you pick out what frame this is? Just looking at it, probably kind of hard to tell. I mean, because you can customize things, but why would and again, I'm kind of just building up to like building a little bit of foundation of
Sure.
some of these questions that everybody's flipping out about the Trump assassination attempt. But why would they have a suppressor on a sniper for something that's there for public safety? What's the reason for that?
My ears. So I'm sitting behind that gun. I'm in a semi-enclosed thing. If you didn't have that suppressor on there and you fired it, boom. Now I have comms issues because I can't hear what's going on.
Yeah.
The others, it adds to the confusion and the chaos. And then the people that are anywhere near that rifle shot, if it's not suppressed, they're going to go into panic mode. And large crowds, you're going to lose more people from the crush than you are from whatever was happening.
And I think
Right,
that probably a lot of people that are watching too they don't have a great understanding of what a suppressor is. So this isn't James Bond where it's just silent
Right.
or anything. But here's a big reason too is that suppressor will cause potentially some variability in how that weapon fires. And for a sniper who's practicing routinely and is putting hundreds of rounds down range, and then if they use a suppressor because it's better for their hearing protection and stuff, now you go to an actual operation and you were to remove that suppressor, there's going to be variability in how you trained with. So
Yeah, you can't do that. So
Right.
you're going to zero with your suppressor and all that stuff.
Yeah,
can't
and when
change
when
anything.
you say about the silent part, I mean, because I bought a 22. I kind of learned this over the last couple of years. I'm a gun enthusiast, but not a gun expert by any means. But I bought my this Walther PPK 22 with a suppressor, and I swear it's the funnest gun I've ever shot in my life because
the action is
it
louder.
is. It is just the action
round
is
at that
louder
point.
than, but it's shooting a 22. But I think I think that you're right, and I don't want to just skip over that. I think that is a common misconception that because of the movies, because of Hollywood, that when it comes to snipers, that did you see Clear and Present Danger? Great movie. And you know the sniper scene where the guy's practicing and for the covert operation,
Right.
and he's obviously shooting some long rifle, and it's is what it sounds, and all you hear is the round hitting the steel plank, and you think, if you see that kind of stuff enough in the movies, you think that when you see a suppressor on a gun, that it is silent, and that is not the case. So most of the time, especially for pros like you, it's for hearing protection.
A lot of times, yeah.
Right.
It's for hearing. The entry guys, can you imagine going in there and 3 or 4 of them opening up with ARs or even
Right.
MP5s it's not suppressed? I mean, the OJIs, the city wouldn't like that.
Some of one of the best advancements, I think, being on the entry side of stuff, is suppressed weapons, because, man, it is so loud to be in like close quarter combat, to do, the CQB operations, even with ear pro on. It's
Yeah.
still so loud.
We got the overpressure
Yeah.
along with the boom. And it's interesting that Americans have this, I don't know, this dim view of suppressors, because if you go to Europe, you're considered rude if your weapon's not suppressed and you're on the range
For law enforcement.
for civilians.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I'm not going to say, as far as I know, you can go to Walmart and get a suppressor. That thing does nothing other than make the gun a little bit
No kidding.
more
Yeah, but
manageable.
it's not going to make it more secret or
Well, if
More
anything,
skill.
less secret, right? Because now your pistol's this long.
Yeah, you got 8
Sure.
inches sticking out the front of it.
But it's still a weapon that is suppressed or not suppressed still makes a lot of sound.
Yeah, because you're not going to stop that bullet
Right.
from reaching, speed of sound. And that's that crack when you get shot at and you hear that snap.
Right. And so, yeah, that's probably one last good thing before we pull up this video. So when you hear a firearm go off, how much percent? I'm just saying, guess what percentage of the noise is the explosion of the round versus breaking the sound barrier?
That's going to be dependent upon distance. So at 200-300 yards, you're going to hear the boom and the bullet probably about the same. You get out to longer distances, you may never hear the boom. It'll just sound like angry hornets flying by you.
Wow.
The thud of
Right,
a round impacting the ground near you is more frightening, I think, than the snap of it going by you.
It will get your blood
That
pumping.
hearing a round thud like in front of you.
Well,
and
at the
tumble
Oklahoma City
past.
Gun Club, we have one of those ranges. And again, I wasn't in the military, but they tell me up there that it's like a military long range. It's one of those ranges where you're down
In the pit,
in the pit, moving the targets.
so you can definitely hear the snap, can't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little bizarre. So anyway, good background. I mean, so obviously the point is, man, you know what the hell you're talking about. 2.5 decades experience, maybe even more. I mean, that's at least just with local law enforcement. You've got your own firm now. It's CenturionCG.net. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And so I forgot to pull that up, Lyndon. I'm gonna send you this link. But what do if somebody goes to that link? What would they be finding? What are they looking for there?
Shameless plug time. So, basically, what our company does is we discovered that there's a million different training opportunities for law enforcement for armed aggressors or active shooter or whatever, but you didn't have anything for civilians. So what we wanted to do was to try to give civilians an opportunity to survive these events as well. So I had it for about 17 years now.
So this isn't anything new.
This is nothing new, no.
Right.
We've taught, obviously, all over the world, all over the country. So one of the main things we do is usually it's larger companies and governmental agencies. We'll tell you, hey, these are some of the things to look for. These are some of the precautionary things you can do. I've got a team of guys that are subject matter experts in crime prevention through environmental design. They'll come in, they'll look at your place and go,
yeah.
no, you got to trim that.
Like threat assessment type
Yes,
stuff.
yes.
This makes you a softer.
So, because what you want to do is you want to harden that target.
Yeah.
So that's what we teach people to do. And the average armed aggressor, and we say armed aggressor because one of the places we went to teach this was to an entire town, and the guy didn't have a gun; he had a box blade, and he walked in there and started carving people up like a Thanksgiving turkeys. And so we didn't
Hey,
want to say,
9/11, dude.
yeah, yeah.
When
So
I
what
hear
you're
box
saying-
cutter, I
what-
think 9/11.
What you're saying though is it's a good idea for regular civilians to have some self-responsibility of their own safety.
You're absolutely responsible because, we joke about it all the time, as you know. So when seconds count, the police are only minutes away. I mean, we're going to try to get to you as quick as we can, but an average response time in Norman, you're talking 3.5 minutes, and that's
Right.
code 3, haul and tail.
And so that's interesting. So when this says, or when you go to this website, centurioncg.net, under services, maybe you'll provide services to civilians or private companies
Sure.
or whoever on what specifically.
What we'll do is we'll just say, well, one, how do you set up? How do you be prepared? And then two is you're a secretary, you're the accountant, you're the whoever, and you hear something happen. One, we teach situational awareness. Some of the things that we look
You're
for.
gonna get him real excited. That was his PhD was built off situational.
Oh my
awareness.
goodness! You've got to come to one of our classes, free of charge for you.
Yeah.
Situational awareness. It's just what right looks like. Intuition, trust it. We've spent a millennia developing it, and even if you're wrong, worst case scenario, you went out the back door. Tell them you had to take a
Do
smoke. walk back.
something.
Yeah, the military, we had a thing, do right, do wrong. For God's sake, do something. Don't die in place. Move, shoot, communicate.
Right. Yep.
So if you went to the NCO Academy, you heard all that stuff. And that's basically what
That's similar to aviation is aviate, navigate, communicate. Yeah, that's that's interesting. Not to get down the research rabbit hole, but it is interesting that you would provide that to civilians. It sounds like a big gap of education that is needed because the data tells us over and over again, at least in the United States anyway, that if you own your own firearm, the data tells us that you're more likely to have that firearm used against you in some negative way than you using it in a positive way. And I've always just
failure to
thought
train.
that's such a what an alarming statistic. It just tells me that people have firearms, they don't know how to use it, or they haven't practiced pulling it out of a holster in a stressful environment. I mean, and is that kind of what some of the stuff is that you guys do?
It is, and I don't want to get on a rant here.
Yeah.
But have you ever heard of Colonel Grossman? Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman. He wrote a book called On Killing.
Yeah.
Okay. He likened it to think of a post office, and you got all the little mailboxes, right? All this wall of mailboxes. That's your brain. So you've built a mailbox for cooking a pizza, mowing the lawn, starting your car. You don't have to consciously think, well, I'm going to put the key in, now I'm going to turn. Boom, you've built a mailbox. It's just instinctual. What people haven't done is built a mailbox to kill someone, to hurt someone. They bring about the point, and this was long before there was any political connotations to it, but he said 99% of people, or 98% of people are sheep. Not political connotations, just they're good, wholesome people.
Right.
They go through life just wanting to live their lives. They would never hurt anyone unless it was on accident. You've got 1% that are wolves who are going to try to take advantage of the sheep, and you've seen them. We've got animals living among us.
Absolutely.
And then another 1% is sheepdogs. Now, don't automatically think that sheepdogs are cops or military. Anybody can be a sheepdog. You've seen mama bears come out in public and ward off gun-wielding people and knife-wielding
Right.
people to protect their own. So anyone can be a sheepdog. But what he's saying is you have to build those boxes. You have to think through, So in building boxes, so I was an FTO at the police department.
Yeah.
So when we're training baby cops, we're building their box. So we're driving down the street. Nothing's happening. It's 3:00 in the morning. And I said, boom, a naked person runs out of the 7-Eleven. What do? Go. And she would have to say, okay,
Film it.
We're at this
That's what people
location.
would say today. Film it. Get your phone out and film it.
No, yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately.
No, do right, do wrong.
Well,
God's sake, do
those
something.
are the sheep.
Yeah. So she would say, okay, I'm going to identify where I'm at. I'm going to let dispatch know. I'm going to try to take up a covered position. I'm going to do all
Yeah.
these things. Why do I use a naked person? Because nothing good comes from
I was
naked in
going to
law
say that
enforcement. Nothing good.
We're already on the wrong.
We're on the wrong foot. I happened to fight a naked guy on East Lindsay with 2 other cops. Jesus Christ. I was fighting Jesus Christ on East Lindsay, naked, sweaty. And
Do we
it
know
took-
that guy?
It took all three. You
I'm
probably
sure we-
do.
I'm sure-
It took all three of us to get him into custody.
Yeah.
Right. So we cuff him up. We throw him in a car. PCP's bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say the connection between PCP and naked people that think that
Yep.
they're Jesus
This is
Christ.
huge.
is-
Hey, and if it's in Florida, it's going to make him eat people.
yeah.
This is true.
Yeah.
So basically, you've built your box.
Right.
Right. So you're kind of exposed to that. You have at least a box started in your brain. So you don't have to start from ground zero when something similar to that happens.
Yeah, and I'd like to link up with you on this maybe at some point because we do a group I work with does quite a bit of training for corporations, churches, schools on like stop the bleed type stuff. So ours isn't necessarily against an aggressor, but it's how to perform life-saving emergency medical aid. And like you said, if you've never made that mailbox, you freeze in those moments. The first time that you think, in your mind, you think, oh, I can do this. Like you have heard how to put a tourniquet on, or you've heard that you need to do X, Y, or Z. But if you haven't actually done it under these high-stress, fidelity-style training areas, you always say something, Justin. It's the saying about rise to the occasion versus
Yeah, you don't rise to the occasion. You fall to your lowest level of training.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
that come from the Tuskegee Airmen.
But why would you think that all of a sudden you're going to be able to do some kind of extraordinary feat that you've never done before? I mean, that's
It's a fallacy.
Hollywood.
It's a
you know?
fallacy.
It's an ego thing.
Yeah.
It
Well,
is, but
I'll
it's
do this,
but it's
I'll do
also
that. No.
but it's also something that I think that we teach our kids that we don't. Just some parents don't know, man. I hope you're going to rise to the occasion. I hope you're going to step up. And people. I remember I'm a diehard Tampa Bay Bucks fan when Tom Brady won that Super Bowl at home. Oh my God, what an amazing thing! But people talk about the stress that he's under. His stress ain't like mine. If you put me out on that football field right now, in front of 180 million people around the world, I'm probably going to fall over from a heart attack. But Tom Brady's been doing it since he was 5 years old. He's probably a little nervous, but not for the same reasons, right? However, you put Tom Brady in the middle of a cardiac arrest in the middle of the interstate down here, he's probably going to drop dead. And so it just comes down to what your training and what you're used to, which I think will play a big role in.
I was going to say, I think
in
this
a
is
couple of the
probably a
things that we're gonna look
perfect
at.
segue. And we haven't talked about this because we've kind of been saving it for the show, but in what happened with the Donald Trump rally the other day, and it's going to come down to rising to the occasion or falling to your lowest level of training. As a
Right.
sniper on a law enforcement team, you probably never worked a presidential stand, but Donald Trump anyway. I don't want to speak for your experience, but you never worked Donald Trump standby in the middle of this Pennsylvania field.
Well, actually,
But
that
you
was
had
something
trained
yeah.
hundreds of times of how to act and how to respond in those situations.
So that is something that I was going to ask you before we play this video, because Trump actually did come to our town. Now, you might have been retired by then, or I don't know if you were still there, but that was the last thing that I did want to ask. Is typically, as a good sized city like Norman, how does local law enforcement join forces with a task force or with state law enforcement or federal law enforcement when the need arises? How does that relationship work?
We've worked with the U.S. Secret Service, DSS, Diplomatic Security Service, and the CIA, because George Tenet back in the day used to come all the time because he was friends with David Bourne, who was the president of OU. All right. I see these things on TV where these guys are the big and gruff and arrogant, cocky. No, we never had that. Those guys worked with us. They weren't deferential, but they would say, hey, you guys are here to support us, but you know the people, you know the layouts, you know everything. So we would have different areas, and what you're going to see here is, so you're going to have all around the principal or the package, however you want to put it. You have just around him, the hands-on people. That's always going to be the feds. You're going to have another perimeter, also going to be the feds, all right? So those are the two perimeters that you're going to have to breach to get there. Any perimeters or areas of operation outside of that are going to be your local people. So you're going to have a QRF on standby, quick reaction force, probably a SWAT team or something like that. You're going to have sniper coverage. I think let's go ahead and get to this, and I think a lot of this will play into that. So I don't want to reiterate.
So this video, I think, is kind of the unedited, just play version. I was sitting at my son's basketball game, literally watching this on Facebook Live because it was airing, and couldn't believe what happened. Lennon, go ahead and play it.
It's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
And so we've all watched this like 1,000 times. Go ahead and pause it. And so right here, we've heard 3 or 4 shots. At this point, nobody knows where these shots are coming from. But the group of people who are there to protect him, who are these people?
That is the U.S. Secret Service. So the short, I told you about the short perimeter. Those are the guys that tackled him to the ground.
Right.
Okay. Now you see the guys coming up the outside stairs. That's your second wave of perimeter that's going to be around him.
And
Also
so
Secret Service.
they're tackling him because of the threat's not gone.
Negative.
Right. A lot of times people think the threat's gone. Like we've heard some shots, something like that, or at least as a civilian. Now what? What's their move now? What is their concern at this moment?
Okay. Where there's one gun, there's 2 guns. The threat is never
Exactly.
gone. The sound of that first shot, your principal, your package is no longer in charge. So the Secret Service is in charge. So at that point, he is subject to whatever they want him to do.
He couldn't be like, y'all back away.
No.
Even if he
After
wanted
that
to.
first shot went
Right.
off, it's
Yeah.
not a prerogative that he has.
But this is an emergency action plan right here. This has been briefed and trained, and their role is to shield the principal because they've sworn an oath to protect the president of the United States, right? Is to shield the president, provide any immediate life-threatening aid, and get off the X. They're in when you come to like dignitary protection or any of that kind of stuff, or this personal security detail stuff. What they have to do now is get off of this hot zone, if you will.
Yeah, GTFO
Yeah.
is what we say, and and that's what you want to do. You're
Get him
gonna
off the
GTFO,
X.
You're going to snatch him up, whether he has his foot under him, whether he's walking, it doesn't matter.
And there's probably an assignment here ahead of
There
time.
is.
I sure hope that there was. I'm assuming at this point that there's going to be a couple people responsible for moving and caring for him, and there's going to be a couple of people that's responsible for providing security on their direct because you're right. You don't know if it was somebody sitting in the first row.
And you're going to see the cover people too. So you're going to have guys with guns out. But then you're going to have people. You saw a bunch of guys. They didn't have their guns out. Their job is to cover him and soak up bullets. But of course, they're wearing armor. I'm sure they're wearing ceramics or something high powered. But I believe there's some audio on this as well. When if you'll continue that,
Yeah.
listen to what the Secret Service agents say.
Yeah, because
I loved it because I told my wife that too. Whenever they said that, it just, as somebody who trains in this environment frequently, what they said was perfect for the most part.
And,
you know what I'm saying?
And why did we hear it? Because his podium mic is
Podium mic
so
was still
bizarre.
hot.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. All right, yeah. Go ahead and play it, Lena.
Holstering up.
Another shot.
That was probably the kill shot on the sniper.
Suppressed
Yeah,
round.
pause it. I'm almost positive that's the guys wiggling around on the ground from the first shot.
Yes, so-
and that's the shot in the mouth.
Not
Or in the face,
I think that it is. It's probably. It's a bad decision to try and analyze these shots too much. We have to understand that this camera is looking at a certain angle.
Yeah.
The shooter is coming from a different angle. The long gun Overwatch snipers are coming from a different angle. But it sounded like the first 3 shots to me sounded like an unsuppressed AR round, and they were at like a 1 second break, right? Which,
Yeah.
as we know, this was like some 20-year-old kid who maybe had some range time, but shooting a semi-automatic weapon like an AR for somebody who's very untrained, that's pretty typical. This one shot, 1 second shot.
Well, he
And
rapid
then-
fires a couple after that.
I don't know that was him.
Well, we'll look at it in a second. So let's hear the rest of this audio right here. Go ahead and play it, Lena.
Notice the people in the background too.
And there's a child.
Hold, when you're ready, on you. Ready? Move! Move!
part that is. But they didn't do it.
Okay, so pause here. So what I heard was, 1, 2, 3, we're going to move. They said Hawkeye's here, and then these two guys come in,
Right.
who are obviously more a little bit more tactical prepared, not worried about covering him up. What do those words mean, and who are these guys?
Okay, I don't know the particular code words they're using, but these guys are to engage any other threats because where there's one gun, there's two. They don't know that the threat's gone. Somebody said, "Hey, shooter's down." Okay, one shooter's down.
And where
How
there's
many do
one,
you have? Yeah, there's
you're
two.
right.
That's what I go off of. If I'm searching a guy and I find one gun, I'm going to keep searching him a lot, maybe 3 or 4 times,
right.
looking for that second one. So that's what those guys are doing. Hawkeye's in there. They've got guys up on the perimeter, as you see the corners there, ready to engage. They also have his vehicle over there, and his vehicle's prepared. You'll see that here.
And the two guys that came up here are probably a part of this like emergency action team or
Yes.
this quick reaction force, and they've got ARs.
Right.
And
so do you think that these guys are local or also Secret Service?
I doubt it. They're pretty close into the
I'll bet
perimeter.
that they're Secret
They're also
Service.
pretty chill.
Yeah.
Because I watched them from a couple other videos, and
Oh, yeah.
and
they were
they're
fucking
in.
chill,
But
man.
look at them though. They're in the low ready with this AR. I mean,
Yeah.
if you have to choose between a pistol and an AR in a gunfight, you're
Yeah.
going to choose an AR, right? And so they are probably sitting right behind the stage or very near the stage. And when this happened, it takes them 5 or 6 seconds to get there. But they're there to control this direct perimeter because
Right.
they know that they've got guys on long guns somewhere else. And all of these guys have comms. I think comms, in my opinion, probably plays a large role in this. But
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that.
Everybody here is probably on same comms.
Roger.
And so medical at this point, which is it always seems to me, and I don't. It always seems to me that the medical, at least other than the tactical medic, who's there to do these first very life-saving ABC
Marchie.
items, the longer term, sometime I feel it gets left out somehow.
Yeah.
Now with the local stuff, if you work at a place, which we don't have to talk about necessarily what you guys do, might also have you obviously on entry or something like that. But then there's also an ambulance out on the street, or maybe it's both. Maybe you took an ambulance there so that if you had to get more involved and actually leave. But with this being a Secret Service, most of these Secret Service teams typically also have somebody on the team who's cross-trained on something.
Well, those guys are going to have basic medical training.
Right.
And
One of
you're-
them might be an
and you're not going to
EMT
get,
or even a
say it was the
paramedic.
POTUS, you're not going to get the president in the back of an ambulance. Secret
Right.
Service is not going to allow that. He's going to go in that heavily armored vehicle. They may chunk you in there with him if they
Right.
know who you are, but he's getting in that armored vehicle, and then they're going to go.
Yeah, the
Right.
civilian EMS standby is I can't speak for the U.S. Secret Service. Now, I have worked with them, and they do have EMTs. I don't know of any paramedics that they have, but the civilian EMS standbys are going to be there for everybody else.
Sure.
He's going to have a dedicated, probably a physician somewhere as well, but outside of like the POTUS or there's an ambulance that's on standby for our SWAT operations. We don't take an ambulance there. I don't drive an ambulance there, but there's an ambulance that's there. And it's staffed with a paramedic, a civilian paramedic. And I will do everything within the hot and warm zone, and then I'll hand this patient off to the ambulance to take him to the hospital, with the exception of any dignitary protection or any of my operators. Any of my SWAT guys, I'm not handing off to an ambulance. I now commandeer that ambulance. EMT is going to drive, and I'm going to tell this paramedic, if I know him, maybe he can assist me. But for the most part, unfortunately, I may make a lot of enemies with this. They're not touching my guys. I will accompany them.
Well, that makes.
directly to
I
the
mean,
trauma center.
that makes sense. And then also at this moment right now, we are 30 seconds into this.
Yeah.
Right. You've obviously got the prime protective person with the president who's we have no idea what's wrong with him at this point. But there's 3 or 4, 5, 6, could be more civilians in the background,
Roger.
who are also injured. Obviously, is not the priority of the Secret Service, but that local EMS that's there. now they're probably getting.
And they were probably 2 blocks away at a staging location somewhere, and they're
Or there could have been some there, but then there's a great video that I saw, and I don't know if I have it or not, where again this is what's wrong with social media is not too long after the incident they say they're carrying the shooter out of the stands, and it was really the firefighter
Well,
who was shot in the head, but that paramedic. I mean, a paramedic had to go up there into those stands.
well, there was an
and
emergency room
triage.
physician that was a patron
Right.
in the stands.
Right.
He was the ER doctor.
And he had to deal with that, but also that paramedic had
Yeah.
to go up there and triage
Yes.
at least 3 people. There probably were more injuries than we know
And
about,
that-
but at least 3 people took a gunshot.
Yeah, and that may have been just a paramedic at a county ran service. Or
Yeah, I
something
think it was
that
the
just
Allegheny
there.
Memorial
It
Hospital
was,
ambulance. that
and,
was
and
there.
now they find so. We'll get into it later, I'm sure, but you cannot take for you can't take for granted the ability for a boring standby to turn into something not very boring.
Every football game,
Anything can
every
happen.
event that we go to, it's constantly something that I'm trying to think of.
It
You're,
could
you're like,
be-
wow, this is a great game.
Nobody ever thought that they were going to run the biggest call of their life the day that they show up to run the biggest call of their life.
Yeah, we call
No.
that normalcy bias.
Right.
So you have that
Yeah.
bias that this is normal. We've been to a million of these things, whatever. Complacency kills.
Sure.
So, you get that normalcy bias. Hey, this is happening. Okay. I've been to a million football games as, as an operator. Mm-hmm. You have to be prepared, but I'm eating my Twizzlers and watching TV and doing
Right.
everything else.
Sitting back.
What you have to do is you have to shorten that response time. Those guys got there pretty quick. But in the human brain, it's going to take you a while for all your synapses to figure out what's going on.
Which is why training's so important, right? This
Yep.
OODA loop. I mean,
The
we
OODA loop.
on the SWAT team, we use that to our advantage. We understand what it's like to bang doors or have a flashbang or sirens and lights and everything like that. But what we want to do on these dynamic type entries is disrupt their OODA loop.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
We want to. I don't want to give away these TTPs or anything like that, and I don't think anything that we're talking about is giving any kind of
No, I don't-
operational
I
secrets
don't think
away.
so.
But for somebody who is not accustomed to stressful situations, having to make decisions during stressful situations, they're not going to be able to do it.
So let's let's play the rest of this a little bit here, and we'll go from there. Hit that dude. So he's still down. Nobody knows what's going on.
But look at so I'm looking at this guy on the. He knows that. I heard shooters down. Are we good to move? Go ahead and pause it.
So I feel like I don't know if I heard it on this one, but I heard it on the other ones. They're wanting to leave, and Trump said it. And I know that it's badass that Trump stood up and did the fist thing and
Yeah.
had the wherewithal. But I almost think that it's just as badass that he was like, that the PR in him said, I'm not walking out of here with one shoe.
Yeah.
Because he says, I'm not
Give me my
giving
shoe.
my shoe. Because can you imagine, think of all the photo ops that have already happened from this.
Yeah.
And have made some people who are probably pretty good people look really, really bad. Imagine the photo op of him being humbled off stage with like one shoe or something.
Hair's all messed up.
Yeah,
His agent holding his hat.
Yeah.
We call that, and that's one thing you look for is a cooperative VIP. Mr. Trump I would consider a cooperative VIP.
No.
Right.
He is going to fight you every step of the way,
Yes.
just because that's his personality.
Sure.
Just not all of them. I had, sorry to get off topic, but
That's all right.
I had some VIPs at a major concert, and one of the artists, using no names, very, very, very famous person, in my Overwatch position, refused to walk under the catwalk because in their contract, no one can be above them.
Jesus Christ.
And I'm sure maybe because they're afraid somebody will throw some at them. Well, I'm not a fan, lady. You notice, or person.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
holding a 308, so yeah, I'm here for your protection. So, her little muggle came up there and told me to move. You can imagine how well that went. Her little muggle went back to her,
Right.
and she walked under me.
Yeah, and you have to. There's also this decision making that's taken place here. I mean, got a plan formulated that said if something happens and the principal drops here, we got to get off of the X. But if you've got 5 guys surrounding them and there is an injury that falls within this immediate life threat, according to TCCC, we need to be taking care of that at that time too, right?
All right, go ahead and hit it, Len.
Let me get my shoes. Let me get my
Oh, this is where he says
I got
it.
you, sir. I got you, sir.
That's all right. You're
Let
still
me get my
covered.
shoes, sir.
Hold that in your head. It's bloody.
So we got to move to the bus. Move to the bus.
Yeah, drop kick that.
So I think he's getting his shoe on right now.
Watch out.
They were on the X a little long here.
And here's where he obviously does his, you know,
Yeah, but they want to move. They want a
yeah,
GTFO.
they're like, they
Yeah.
got to be stressed. We're standing here,
Oh, I
we're
bet
sitting
there's
ducks.
Yes, exactly.
We're all going to get shot.
and
in the
they
head.
and like and you heard him say across the radio, shooters down, but just like you said, sir, where there's one, there's two.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't care if the shooters.
Right. And so as these guys are going off, there's I did have some questions right here because this was an interesting. Keep it going just a little bit.
Look at the difference in a couple of the TAC operators, though. We've
Okay.
got some
Yeah.
green
So
vest
right
guys
about
and some
here.
black
Pause
vests.
it, Lennon. So we've got these 4 or 5 dudes who are right on the president.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's 2 or 3 females, which I don't really want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but it's certainly
Mm-hmm.
we can talk about it a little bit. We've got the 2 guys who are in the black. Who I think have kind of stayed back a little bit, and then you get these 2 guys who are in more of these green fatigues. Who are each of these people at this point?
Now there's no
If
way
you had to guess,
know.
if you had to guess,
If I had to guess, I'd probably guess that be they could be Homeland Security
Well,
because
they-
Secret Service
yeah.
backfills with Homeland Security.
It could be FBI, and
It could be, and
could
they
be
got
Marshals.
they got the
Service.
nods on, so they've got their.
but they're going to be
NVGs.
federal no matter what if they're dressed
If
like
they're that close,
If they're that
to
close,
that to the principal.
Right? Yeah, he's got NVGs on his head. I
Yeah.
mean, he's ready to stay there.
Yeah, and there was one of those guys came up onto the stage,
right.
and so if I don't think it is, but if this was a local TAC team, there's no way they're going to walk to the stage.
No.
They haven't been vetted. They're like you said at the beginning, the local team has been assigned to this external perimeter. They're not inside. So the 2 guys that we seen come onto the stage that were in black helmet, black vest, that's typical of the U.S. Secret Service, and that's probably who those guys are. The OD green guys that are around, I would bet. I don't even know that they're Homeland. I'll bet that they're either FBI's TAC team or
It could be.
U.S. Marshal Service.
It could be, and I went to the FBI's National Academy, and I got a chance to meet some of those guys, and
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
of those guys are operators off the military side that went into that. They're pretty BA.
Yeah, and Homeland too. I mean,
Yeah.
I've done a fair amount of work and continue to do some work with Homeland Security, and they're pretty high speed guys too. At
Look
least
at
the
the
guys
size
I
of the Secret Service agents. So, Mr. Trump is what 6'3". I mean,
Yeah,
he's a big guy.
Yeah, he's a tall guy.
He's a big guy.
So if you're having to do body cover, let's launch back into what you were about to go into without going down a rabbit hole. But if
Yeah,
you're,
yeah, go ahead.
If your job is to body cover and you're a 5'5" individual, no matter what your genitalia, you're going to be hard pressed. That one female did a great job. She buried her head into his chest,
Yeah.
which would have taken a bullet for him, which is pretty bloody impressive. And this doesn't have anything to do with females because I know some pretty badass females from SWAT teams,
Same.
from the military. I mean, but if they want to have 30% of Secret Service female by 2030, start recruiting volleyball players, somebody that can cover these big guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest thing, and that doesn't have to do with gender, but it likely has to do with the 30% goal of hiring. Is there's some videos of them of a gal trying to reholster her weapon, and there's another video of a gal that's like hiding behind the stage area. And what that tells to me is not necessarily that they're incapable of the job. They failed to perform, which in my opinion should remove. There's no remediation at this level, right? But what it tells me is that one gal who couldn't reholster her weapon has never trained in that type of environment. is not comfortable
or not a million times,
or
Maybe
is
she
not
did it
or
once.
is not comfortable functioning in that type of environment. And we know that the majority is like self-inflicted gunshot wounds is like reholstering type stuff. But she's so frazzled and failed to perform in my impression.
And that can be a training thing. Again, has nothing
Sure.
to do with gender. It's just
I
if you're
agree,
gonna
but
cover a guy.
I think that there's probably some link between trying to meet a quota of hiring. So this 30% thing is so baffling to me because do you think that 30% of the applicants are female? So why should what I'm saying is like why should you create a goal of this equality of outcome as opposed to equality of opportunity, right? We don't have 30% garbage truck drivers, and that's because there's not 30% of applicants that want to drive a garbage truck.
All right, why aren't Navy SEAls 30%?
And I-
old fat guys like me, they're not giving me a right chance.
I wouldn't make it either, man.
I'm not mentally or physically tough enough,
But
even in my youth, to do that job.
The idea, and I'm all about equality, or inclusivity, I should say. I'm all about inclusivity. I have a special needs son, so of course I'm all about like opportunity and inclusivity and stuff like that. But equality of outcome, man, that's a dangerous game to play when the stakes are like this.
Yeah, and everybody can be on the bus. It just depends where your seat is. So if I'm guarding somebody that's 6'7" and I'm only 5'11", okay, well, my seat on the bus is probably going to be on that second perimeter because there's no way I can cover that guy.
Yeah.
And you saw those guys. They had their hands over his head, anything that would deflect a bullet. I mean, they're just willing to sacrifice their bodies. That female, even though she was a little smaller stature, she did a great job. She buried her head into his chest.
Yeah, and none of them had ever done that real world, right?
No.
I mean, I'm sure they trained it a lot, but
Nope.
So pull up that first link. That's just the picture. So so now we're going to back up just a little bit. They get him in the unit. They get him out. And from there on, we don't really, there's no footage or anything. And so this is the kind of like the main picture of one of the sniper teams. So I'm gonna leave this here because these two guys are taking a world of shit because they were the ones who was in somebody's cell phone video. Okay.
Yep.
Yet Lennon, I'm gonna have you pull up this map right here, which is number 9. Pull up number 9 on that list. It'll take him a second to do it. But while he's doing that, what can you make out from this picture? Oh wait, shit.
There it is.
No, go back, Lennon. What can you make out from this picture in terms of just what the equipment is and who these guys are?
Well, that's kind of hard to tell, but because they have the police on, so I don't know if they're local snipers but they've got some pretty high dollar rigs there, so they could be Secret Service for sure.
yeah, those PEC systems they've got on top of their optics are
Yeah.
pretty pricey anyways.
And what are those?
It's like an IR laser.
So it'll show up in their scope when they look through it.
Well, or anybody else can see it
NVGs
that has
as well.
NVGs, but it's not a red
Right,
laser.
it's not going to the suspect or Mark is not going to look down
because
and see it.
there's going to be an aerial asset that's out here right now that's also providing some kind of comms and Overwatch and stuff as well that they can see.
And so these guys are partners. They've got another scope up on the tripod. Is that what that is?
No, it looks like this guy that's on the bottom is his gun is no longer on the tripod. It's just
Yeah.
resting.
Is that
Yeah,
what
he's
that is?
prone, but you'll see the binoculars, so they're switching off. You can't
Yeah.
stay on scope all the time.
Yeah.
They're switching off spotter and trigger man. But at this point, they both got their rifles. So I don't know this, but that to me would say they see something hinky. They want to get two scopes on it.
Right. So switch over to the map, Lennon. Go to that next tab.
And what you're saying is it's pretty common to have a spotter on glass and then somebody on.
Yeah.
The scope
Now I never
on
had the
gun.
tripods and stuff that it didn't allow, but you're on scope. Your neck.
Oh,
I
sure.
mean, my posture's horrible now because I spent so much time like that. you know.
Yeah.
But
So this is just kind of like one of the general maps, and there's a big thing that's getting left out here, and this is I had someone call me this morning and didn't want to tell me his name, or I know his name. He didn't want me to say his name or anything like that. But there's a big thing that he says that the media has not discussed at all, and that is, you see where the Secret Service sniper spots are in the
Roger.
top right there. He says that he's adamant that the two guys in the video are not the one who shot them, and that it was there was another crew. You see where there's a second one to the right of the stage, and that the guys who look, Lenny, you can flip back and forth between that picture.
Yeah, I'm not sure that these guys made. I'm not sure that these
Right,
guys.
but these
made
are
a
the
shot.
guys that are in the video over and
Right.
over and over again.
Right.
But that's just who the cell phone footage is on. So if you in the video, these guys, if with the right commentary, might look like they're making a mistake or something like that. But from what I understand is that these two guys could see that there was something over there, but they couldn't get a line of sight
Roger.
on him. And this is what was told to me this morning. And so go over to the actual YouTube video there, Lennon. And I'm sorry. Hold on. I'll pull up this final video. We can
We'll talk while we do
pause
that.
for a
So,
second. Yeah. Well, yeah. Go ahead.
So, you don't know what their perspective is. So, if the bad guy's in defilade on a pitched roof,
Yeah, I was gonna say. So he's on a pitched roof and he's crawling up to the peak.
right? So he's in defilade to some of those guys. Maybe they don't even get a full look at him to even shoot at him.
And what we have come to find out is that the building that he was on is a staging location for local law enforcement.
I heard that.
So is it possible that the Secret Service, that's a federal agency, is providing overwatch in the immediate area, is looking at a building that they understand to be occupied by local law enforcement, and like as you said, coming across the backside of a pitch, they can't get a great view of who it is.
Well, let's take a look at this is the video that everybody has seen 5 million times, right? So you can make that bigger, Lennon, and then play that. So these are those same two guys. You see Trump right here. They are obviously. I say obviously. To me, it's very obvious that they see some a concern.
they are focused.
Yes.
They are focused over.
They're not looking down binoculars. They are looking
They're
down
not
the rifle
scanning.
of a barrel.
They're not.
Right. And so go ahead and play it. This is what we've seen a million times, right? I don't know if there's any audio to it. Oh, Lennon, put the audio on.
Really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
And so go ahead back like 10 seconds and just do that again.
And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Now, I've watched this 10,000 times, probably like you guys have, but it doesn't look to me like either of those guys fire a shot.
No.
Even though the media, when I
Yes.
say the media, I mean your mainstream media of NBC, CBS, and even Fox have said these are the guys. Here's where they take the shot and kill the guy. And to me, it looks like they see a threat. They get somewhat startled when they hear a shot. Mm-hmm. But they're like they're all amped up because they want to try to get this guy and they can't see him. Is that what you see?
Absolutely. And what we have is the window of opportunity. One, you're right. They don't know who that is. There's supposed to be cops in that building. You don't want a blue on blue, you said last time. But, the other guys may have had the actual shot on him and not these guys.
Do you think that, so at this time we watched this little video, I count like 3 distinct shots, and I don't see that guy taking any of those shots. He's not even on scope, at least the one to the left's not even on scope. I don't see any form of recoil, which these precision weapons are.
They push a bit.
But they're fantastic. They're still going to have some recoil,
They're gonna
right?
push you.
So I agree with you, Justin. I don't think that either one of those guys took that shot.
But don't you think that's wild? That none of the. I mean, I'm not getting down. Well, of course the media gets it wrong, but
No.
that's really wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, what the media said, yes, I
If
believe
they're-
that they're reporting something that is totally inaccurate, and now these guys are facing all kinds of
Ridicule.
backlash that they're
Yeah.
agents of.
No,
You
we won't
know,
even go
like,
to conspiracy
man,
theories, but yeah, you have also the misinformation and disinformation is all you have right now.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get a full report from the FBI for what, a year, 2 years
Yeah.
on this
Sure.
because they are going to break this down frame by frame.
See something
So start this video over. So I've thought this video was a pretty good one. It's looking, Trump is over to the right.
Check.
We've got another uniform here in between, so this is
And-
probably another agency that's doing this.
And what the Secret Service has said, which I feel like they shouldn't have said it so early. Probably should have held on to it a little bit. Has said that beyond that fence over there is local law enforcement's control, even though it's only 150 yards away. But at this point already, people have seen this kid crawling up at this point of the video. Go ahead and play it, Lennon. Give me some audio.
And that's a little bit old, that short. That short's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that said, take a look what
Yeah,
happened.
cops going over there.
Probably 20
Dude,
million
that camera is coming from the stands. That's coming from behind the
It is,
president.
and so you hear these first three shots that come from the shooter.
Probably
Do you
behind
see
that
anything?
tree.
Yeah.
I think he's probably behind the leaves or the branches of that tree.
Right, and so what I think here's where you pause it, and this go back a couple seconds, just scroll back, but keep it paused. Go back another couple seconds. Keep going back. Can you just drag it back, Lennon?
I think it's the beginning.
Oh, I'm sorry. Play it, and I'll tell you where to pause it. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Right about there. Now, again, I'm making an assumption right here. However, it seems to go in line. You said you saw that local walking there. I think that this guy is filming this because he sees this commotion over there. There's a couple people running. They've been screaming. This guy's up on the roof. There's a guy up on the roof. And the complaint is, right, local law enforcement didn't do anything, or they were slow on the roll or something like that. Well, my question is for you, and this is where that kind of the comms thing comes in. You've got a reported threat anyway by civilians saying there's a guy on the roof. If that gets to a local law enforcement's ears, they hear that. How quickly should that get to the Secret Service team to do something?
Well, there's where we talk about interoperable communications. All right. So they have the capability. There's a magic truck. There's a magic truck at a secret place in Norman, actually, that can tie in every bit of communication there is and meld them all together. Now, I'm not saying they have that here, but that's going to be the kicker. And do they even say anything? They radio to their dispatch. Their dispatch talks to the liaison for the Secret Service and the sheriff's office. They put that information out. And
Yeah,
so I don't
my,
know.
my assumption is that there's a what we call a TOC, this Tactical Operations Center, and in this TOC is going to have a captain / chief / whatever for the local law that's sitting right next
Yes.
to some kind of operational command for each of the other agencies, and you've been on either in the air or on the ground trying to communicate with, say you're flying into a scene flight with a helicopter, and you've got a volunteer fire department who's talking to here, that's relaying, and it's hitting 4 or 5 points before it gets back to you, and you're just trying to say, move the damn fire truck so I can land a helicopter.
Right.
And there's a big delay in it, and I totally understand how this happens, because I was a part of an operation not too long ago where I responded to an active shooter threat at a large university. And when I got there, there were agencies from all the surrounding cities as well as multiple federal agencies. And I got attached to a federal team to go in and start making these clears. And it's dark and it's 360 degrees worth of threat. And we're trying to clear an entire university that had an active shooter deal, and I couldn't talk to anybody. I couldn't even talk to the operators that I was attached to
Yeah.
on my had to be direct line of sight, and it's dark, and we wear these ear pro style comms now that, you know, so that I can talk directly to my through my radio, and I can hear directly through my radio. But it kind of like it's a nightmare, and it's one of the more terrifying times because I've got all these different guns running around, and I can't talk to any of them.
Now you can't coordinate.
So start this over, Lennon, and just play. Go ahead, hit escape so that it's small, because I want you to go back and forth between the two videos. You see the YouTube video up there. Yep, and you know how to go back and forth between them pretty quickly. So it's kind of no. I'm sorry, not that one. Go to the two Twitter ones. Oh, did you close that other video out? The one with the snipers? You got to pull that back up, dude. Sorry, because I want them side by side. We're kind of paused right now.
No,
so
you're good because I give me opportunity.
Yep. So
There you
click on the video right there, and leave it right about there. Okay. Now click on the one that says Colin Rugg up there, and then play this one for a couple seconds from the beginning. And so you see people scrambling. Okay, so right there. So between these two, at this moment, you see these people scrambling. We're about, scroll down to the timeline. You're about 6 seconds away from the first shots. And go back to the other Twitter video, and you're about the same thing here. Would you agree that these snipers see him?
They see something, yes.
And people on the ground have seen him. These snipers see him.
They may not see him, but they see people running
Well, the
around.
other snipers definitely see him because they cap his ass. But there is a recognition that there is something there, the focus that you said that's got to be there, right? And so you've kind of already addressed like what would take so long from somebody saying, this is one of the things people keep talking about over and over again, that these late incompetent local cops or something like that. I mean, you don't just get on the radio. A local cop doesn't just say, drop the president, put him on the ground, cover him up. There's going to have to be some communications there that is already preset, that's got to be prepared, and everybody's got to be on the same page. And obviously that didn't happen. But on these guys, here's the big question that I have for you. This is what we were talking about on the show the other night, Zach, is I want to know, maybe these two guys, or more likely the two guys who are over here, they see this guy. They have to, because they shot him so quickly. But you're probably thinking, like you said, this is a local law enforcement building. We've already assessed the building at some point earlier in the day, and we know local PD is going to be in there or something. But we see this. Something doesn't make sense. What is the rule, or what could be a rule of engagement for a preemptive shot? How does that work?
The row for me, as whether it be a military or law enforcement, I have never asked permission to pull the trigger. All right. If I have motive, means, and opportunity, I'm taking the shot. Nobody's going to tell. There's nothing like, well, we got to give you the green light. No.
And taking into account priorities of life too, right?
Roger. So priorities of life that he's speaking of is going to be your suspect, and then law enforcement, and then the general public. So, they didn't need permission from anybody. As soon as
Sure.
they could articulate those three things, they're legal to shoot, and they should. Now, you have a bunch of other stuff that's coming into it, and I'm not trying to be an apologist for these guys. I've been in similar situations, so I know you don't want blue on blue. We've got a guy in camouflage pants and his grunt style type T-shirt. Well, that's a local cop, and you're like, okay, I don't want to zip a local cop. But then he gets up there, again, back to comms. How long is it taking to communicate from one to another to another? The event you're talking about, I think I know what it is. At one point, I'm on the back of the talk. Guy shows up, full kit, AR, all that good stuff.
I remember that.
USDA meat
nightmare.
inspector.
Yeah.
Not dissing the meat inspectors. I'm just saying.
Don't knock the meat inspectors,
No,
dude.
but I don't know what kind of training he has. I don't know what kind of comms he has.
So that same night, at one point, I'm with a 5-man team, and we're making ourselves from one building and we're walking across this courtyard to another, and a plainclothes guy, completely by himself, plainclothes,
That's what I remember.
comes walking by, and we're like, and we grab him, and he was FBI, but he's plain clothes and he's walking through an active scene, and whenever we asked him for some ID, he was like so offended that we had asked him for something. You know what
get
I'm
some of
saying?
that, yeah.
And it's like, dude.
And so
I don't know
so you're saying that before this type of event, I mean, because this is in military, this is civilian, even though it's federal, there's not you don't know you wouldn't think that there's a discussion of, well, the rules of engagement might be this. It would be the same as if they're on patrol. If we perceive a threat to my life, to somebody else's life, to the suspect's own life, we're just like anybody else. The rules are the same. And so the two teams that we saw up on that map, I mean, you can pull that map back up, Lennon, but the two teams that are on those maps and the guys on the ground, you got to imagine that it's up there in the top left, Lennon. You got to imagine that that between those two white squares on the top right of where the snipers are, as well as some of the Secret Service that's surrounding the actual president himself, they're all can talk to each other very easily, and because they got the earpieces, you don't have to see them move their hand up to like key something up. They're able to talk and communicate. And so while people are looking at them saying, these guys are scrambling, they don't know what they're doing, they're talking to each other.
Yeah.
Here's
Right?
here's what nobody is mentioning, and it's in the video of the person sitting in the stands. So you see this right here?
Yeah.
That's a tree.
That's what I was going to bring
Go
up.
back to that map. So the tree is right here, and the stands is what's looking. Those snipers,
They
they
may have had-
don't have,
An unobstructed
That's
view.
probably why they look so
and they're like,
stressed
what
out.
the hell is happening right now?
They're looking through limbs and
You
leaves
know?
and trying to make out pieces.
And
of
so
stuff.
you're right, Justin. I think that the shots probably came from that more, 2 o'clock.
Well, this guy told me
structure.
this morning, and he said it's impossible. They didn't even shoot.
Yeah.
It's clear that they didn't even see what they were looking
Right.
at because they were so stressed out. And so, but really, Mark, my big question is, and this is what people, what it boils down to: why wasn't he shot before he fired off his own shot? What do you think?
That is an outstanding question. And the only thing that I can surmise is that prior to him pushing his rifle over the crest of that roof, that they didn't have a shot or they didn't have everything they needed for row.
Yeah.
Now, again, misinformation and disinformation is all we have out there. But some that I've heard said a police officer climbed up a ladder, saw the bad guy, had his hands full of ladder, so he couldn't engage. Bad guy pointed a gun at him. He ducked down, reasonable. And that's why he had to come back on and make some quick shots.
And I think that's where I agree with you, sir. If I'm painting or predicting what is going to come out, those first 3 shots come from the bad guy. Somebody alerted local law. There's a bad guy on the roof. Local law walked up this ladder. He gets a gun pointed at him. He ducks down. Bad guy turns around, acquires President Trump in his sights, takes 3 shots, and then the next 5 shots we hear is probably from that local law enforcement officer with his weapon.
Potentially, or it's from those other snipers that don't have the tree obstructing them.
Yeah.
Would be
They were
my
pretty
guess.
quick shots,
Yeah.
Well, see, you make a good point because when you say you see the kid crawling, he's going to pull up this other video that probably everybody has seen. You didn't really hear the people on the ground who were flipping out. So go ahead and play this video. Think about the one
but
thing.
look
that
at
they,
the title on
Yeah.
it too.
Yeah,
Like
forget
how-
about the title. I hate that it's the only video.
There are
I
a
can
lot
find.
of experts in
I know.
sniper
Yeah, right.
and Secret Service stuff.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead and play it, Lennon.
there it is.
And so they see him.
Comedians millions of people in our country. that
And listen to what they say.
Dangerous people, criminals. We have criminals.
He's
We
on
have
the roof. He's
drug
right.
dealers. We have people that
Right
should not be
here,
here.
right on the roof.
It's much
He's
tougher
getting
than
up
it is.
now.
Okay, so pause it right there. So what I think is so telling about this video is you got all these people who are screaming at law enforcement. None of them said that he had a rifle. None of them said guy with gun on the roof, which makes me think that kid was dragging that gun along the
Yeah.
edge of that roof. And if that's the same thing those snipers saw,
Yeah.
I got to think that they're going, who's this fucking punk ass kid crawling on the roof? What is he doing?
Well,
what is he?
we're crucifying law enforcement across the entire country right now as well.
Yeah.
And can you imagine? Like, I don't envy these snipers at all, because can you imagine through their head they're thinking right now, this dumbass is doing this, and all that is I'm going to be remembered for is that I shot some kid in the head who had a video camera and was trying to see the president of the United States.
Right.
He didn't get a ticket into the thing, or
Right.
however you got access to go watch the rally. He didn't get in. So he found a building close and he snuck up on it, and I'm going to shoot this kid in the head
Right.
and go to jail for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and so from your point of view, Mark, what do you think? I mean, I know we're armchair quarterback and we don't have. We're just given the information that we have now. What would have prevented this from happening?
I think more efficient communication, obviously. When those people start yelling, there's a guy up there, and the other is train. Because you can't tell because I can't see every cop in the frame, but it didn't seem to me like there was any exigency in the movement.
Mm-hmm.
You know, somebody tells me, hey, there's a guy up there. Well, I'm sprinting my butt over there. Hey, the
Right.
cows are getting out.
Yeah.
For you.
Right.
Boom. You're not going to waddle over there and kind of look. No, you're going to run full on because you now have mission. And you know what? It's just like I teach the civilians. What if you're wrong? Okay. No
Yeah.
bullets. I can
You
forgive
yelled,
anything.
you
that
yelled at some kid.
Yeah.
But like you said at the beginning, you said normalcy.
Yeah.
Right? Like there was so much, I think, of like this complacency of I've got it under control. There's no way that this is going to actually happen.
Right.
And I accredit it, Justin, more along the lines to like the Swiss cheese model. I don't think there was any one failure. I think that the holes of, so in aviation we have this this theory that if you take like a half a dozen slices of Swiss cheese that have holes in them and you put them together, typically the other side of a hole is going to be a solid piece of the cheese and it stops that hole. But occasionally those holes are going to line up, and you have all these different holes of complacency, failure to train, people that don't give a shit, DEI, the guys on the west side of this pitched roof that doesn't have a clear line from the long gun Secret Service agents. I mean, I think that there was just a multitude of
you have the
failures.
perfect storm. It wasn't one thing. It was a
So-
compilation.
So this is kind of that same video, but to point out, instead of pointing out the trees and stuff, we have some type of federal Leo right here, but he's inside and he's not looking back that way. So he's focused up on the president is what it looks like to me. And he kind of walks that way. But I do want to point out this one local Leo
He's
who's
a patrol,
walking
he
under
looks
the
like
trees.
a patrol guy.
Yep.
He's a blue shirt patrol
Yeah,
guy.
go
right?
ahead and play it, Lennon.
That's the
Probably 20 million people.
Hey,
And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple
he's right
months
there.
old, and
These
if
guys
you
are
wanna
already
really
screaming at
see
him.
something that said,
And this is
take
the
a
guy
look
you're
what
talking about,
happened.
this guy in the black right here.
Yeah.
And somebody, the threat has already at least been identified in terms of somebody's on the roof.
Something's up there, yeah.
And so when it comes to, dude, I've watched this 1,000 times. I'm sure you've watched it 1,000 times. You get so many different angles. It's hard to navigate through this social media without reading the headlines that go with it. Let me watch the goddamn video.
Yeah.
Not
Tell me what to think.
cut it up and put things over it. In my opinion, and again, I'm a medical guy, and so and a civilian from this, but you're the expert at least on the tactical and the sniper part of this. From my opinion, this is poor planning and complacency that led to this. And you know, all of the conspiracies and the headlines that I keep reading say it has a picture of the dumbass kid because he's young, he's a punk, he looks like a dipshit, and people saying how could the headline typically says, you're telling me that this guy defeated our $3 billion budget of the Secret Service, as in that it's too simple for that to be the case. Well, what happened? What brought down 9/11? What changed our world? A bunch of box cutters,
Yeah.
right? Just a bunch of guys who snuck past security and did everything. So when it comes to this, does it make more sense? What makes more sense to you? That hundreds and hundreds of people were planned to execute our president, or some dipshit kid fell through the cracks and now we're seeing the result of piss poor planning?
Oh, definitely dipshit kid. And what we discovered in school shootings and mass shootings and things, they almost always talk about it. They tell someone, they post it on social media somewhere. They've got people that say, yeah, that guy was always weird and talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
See something, say something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's no telling when they may find out this kid's been planning this whole time. As far as a giant conspiracy, yeah, I'm not buying it.
I'm not buying it either.
buying it.
And here's what I try and tell people is that you should never underestimate the fact that there's stupid people doing really important things. And I think that you can't lump, everybody's calling the U.S. Secret Service, that they're lumping the entire thing as a failure. There's thousands of employees for the Secret Service.
Yeah.
It's the same, like for our local ambulance service, you can't tell me that you're not going to find a dipshit that works there. Like this is just part of it. And I think that
Society.
it's
a section of society.
you said a perfect storm.
Yeah.
I find it very hard to believe some mass conspiracy that all of these people knew something and didn't say something. You know, nobody's spouses have came out and said, you know, my husband Joe said that we're planning on killing the president.
Right.
Yeah, you can keep that quiet.
And,
Yeah.
and I appreciate that both of you guys said that. However, this is a research channel, and so while what you say, I believe that 100%. But that's not the way that evidence works. And you're law enforcement, and whether you're doing a research project for a paper or investigating a crime, you can't put somebody in jail or control an investigation simply because it makes sense. And I can't publish a paper because it makes sense. I have to have some evidence. Mm-hmm. And that supports or guides, in your case, guides an investigation this way. In my case, guides the science towards some type of conclusion or something. What I can't do, and what law enforcement certainly can't do, is say, well, it makes more sense that this is what happened.
Right.
So that's, you know, this is the difference. I don't know if you guys use the same words, but in medical stuff, we use like convergent versus divergent style of you know, am I gonna find my suspect and then prove why he's guilty, or am I gonna follow the evidence and land on a suspect? And what these people are doing across the country is saying, because I don't have any evidence, mm-hmm. because I don't understand all the things that you guys just explained on the show, because I don't understand those things. What makes more sense is that this was a deep state thing. This kid was in on it, and everybody planned this shit, and they're all trying to execute my president, instead of just some dumb dipshit kid who's been spent way too much time, you know, on the internet. You mentioned to me that saying, that razor earlier. What was that?
Oh, never attribute to malice what is adequately explained by stupidity. All right, you're trying to feed this beast. Hey, if the FBI, CIA, and this goes to reasonable, no proof, but if all those people wanted him dead, they wouldn't have a 20-year-old kid up there with an AR and a red dot sight, which is what I heard it was. They'd have me at 400 yards.
And when you say red dot, for people who don't know that,
short range combat optic.
No magnification.
Yeah, just a red dot, short range.
Right.
He was,
Which is probably the first shot.
yeah.
His first one probably.
And you
is the one
would
that hit.
agree, as a sniper, his first shot was actually a good shot. It was a timing thing,
Yeah.
right? I mean, now I'm sure somebody who's,
Yeah,
who's a sniper
and
would-
let's clarify. I know what you mean. Good shot. I don't think that you mean that
Yes.
it was a good
A
shot.
no,
more
I-
accurate
It was a
shot
more
than the other.
accurate. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, had Trump not have moved, his shot would have been on point,
Right.
and our
yeah.
whole world
Can you imagine?
would be in
Oh
a
my
different
gosh.
place than we are right now. Our entire planet would be.
It would be. There are other national leaders that have said that as well. But let me throw this in there.
Sure.
Oh my gosh, it's so horrible now, and it's so different than it ever was, and it was so. No, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the number of presidents we've had, what 45? Have you seen that?
No,
And
but
the
I know where you're going. I know exactly
and then
where
the
you're
number
going
who
with
have been assassinated. It's happened way back in the back. I mean, they have it's a dangerous job. So if you look at it, and I don't have my phone to pull up the quote, but they have a certain percentage chance of you
Yeah.
dying, like 5.8 or 6%, something like that. And we're talking way back. Look at, Teddy Roosevelt took a round in the chest and finished his speech. I mean,
Yeah.
this has been going on. Abe Lincoln.
I wonder also if like contributing factors, if I'm trying to find like causality, if there was an unwillingness of the federal agencies to like fully bring in the local law enforcement. Maybe they treated them like this is some town in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
This is a local, county sheriff's office or a small department. Like we're going to give them this little piece, and we're not going to interface a lot. I wonder if any of that brought into it.
I can't discount that, and that's a possibility. But you also think about the Secret Service.
Mm-hmm.
During this season, they call it campaign fatigue. Do you know how many events these guys go
Oh,
to?
man.
And these Secret Service agents,
bet.
they're not taking a nap when the principal takes a nap. They're 24/7, round the clock. So they are fatigued.
Sure.
For the POTUS, I've got a buddy who's on the president's team. Dude, they're going.
No.
Matter of
Yeah.
fact, I was hoping he'd call before this show so I could talk to him.
I'm sure he's
very busy.
I'm sure he's very busy
Oh,
right now.
sure.
But I tell this with my students a lot on specific topics. Do not let the operational tempo of what we do create this malice or this normalcy, this
Yes.
complacency.
Yeah, and to your point, Mark, about going back to the history, I saw exactly where you were going because this human thing that is happening, and it's I don't know if we call it a phenomenon or what. Zach, you threw this term at me a couple years ago, and I talk about it all the time because it's such a thing with science and research about. He said the biggest problem with human beings today is the inability to comprehend big numbers, right? And so, how does that apply to this? Well, the same thing applies to the Holocaust and the Kennedy assassination and the moonwalking, and people can only. There's so many people that can only see 1 inch in front of their face, and if what they see doesn't make sense to them, then it can't be real, and it must have been made up. Because you don't understand how rockets work, because you don't understand gravity, because you don't understand that, well, somebody, a dipshit could crawl up on that roof and just might fall through those holes of that Swiss cheese and change our world forever, just like 19 hijackers did back in 2001 on 9/11. And so I don't see anybody talking about this in terms of, look, this really was just a categorical failure based on complacency and probably a little bit of a communications. And it's so much more complicated to make it a conspiracy.
Oh, yeah.
That's what boggles my mind is that they think that it's a conspiracy because it sounds easier. You know how many people you got to get on board who are never going to talk for the rest of their life to have
impossible.
made this
And they're
happen?
not going to have 10 beers at the local watering hole and
impossible.
and spit that out of their mouth, like, or talk to a spouse. I'm just saying, people don't keep secrets.
The quiet professionals, for the long time, the special operations community did that.
Yeah.
And now, with all due respect, they're coming out there writing books about this and writing books about this
Oh, they got
operation.
such good hair too.
Oh,
Right?
yeah. They do. They do
Right.
that.
You know, and this link that Lennon's got pulled up is just the heartbreaking thing. I mean, because we work in public safety, and I think when you work in public safety, I don't know, because I don't work in private industry, so I don't experience it like we don't experience it as much as probably the majority of Americans do, right? Where they're sitting at an office. I feel like in public safety, we're a little more comfortable talking shit in front of our coworkers.
Yeah, a lot of it.
You know what I mean? And so you really know when you go to work at the fire department or an air base or a police department, you kind of know like that guy's a conspiracy guy, or that guy's a Trumper, or that guy's a Bidener, or you kind of know that, right? And that's politics. So politics, people are always going to lean one way. They have philosophical beliefs. I mean, it is what it is. But this guy here, what was this guy's name? He was a fire chief. What was his
Corey
first name?
something.
What's his first name? Go to Corey. Oh my God, that's a long name. That looks Italian.
Comparatore.
Comparatore. Corey Comparatore. That's a cool name.
That is a cool
Corey Comparatore.
I think it's just Chief Corey, though, is what I've heard.
This guy's a volunteer, and a volunteer in Pennsylvania and New York is a little bit different than where I come from. Where I come from, volunteers are like newbies, and it's like an introductory thing, like a police explorer
trying
thing.
to get on to a
Stepping
service.
stone.
Up in these places, man, that's the coverage.
Yeah.
Right? That's the coverage. They got $1 million trucks, but they don't get paid. Right? And this guy's just sitting in a crowd, supporting who he thinks is his guy politically, and
Which is a fundamental right of being an American.
Absolutely. And you know, we don't use the word political violence in this country very often because we don't have political violence. It's not like Venezuela or these other countries where, or Russia or something like that, where your political you have a political enemy. Well, you find a way to take them out. Like that's not this country, and I'm saddened for the country that we even got to this point. But again, it's very apolitical because the politics of it doesn't matter. But what I think does matter is kind of the mood of the country. I don't know if you guys watched the RNC last night, at least when Trump walked out for the first time. Say your highs and lows about Trump. Everybody would agree that the guy comes across as a dick. People, and that's his supporters say that all the time.
Oh yeah, that's why they like him.
Yeah, he's a dick.
Drain the swamp.
So
he understands that there's a fundamental problem. Sure,
but
he's a dick.
But I think that dickness part is what loses him so much on the people who don't like him. And I almost feel like, do you remember? I don't know if you guys will remember this. Do you remember the commercial? I think it was a post office commercial after 9/11, and it was looking at a bunch of brownstones down New York City, and it was shooting down like the street. And it showed, like 30 brownstones, like houses. And there was like one American flag up. And it said 9/10/2001.
Sure.
And then it kind of fades to black. And it comes back and it says 9/12/2001. Everybody's got an American flag up. I feel it is such a tragedy, right? Changed our world forever. But you remember how we came together?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And how, because Bush was very polarizing, right, at the time, and it brought everybody together. Do you feel like we're there again? I feel, who's going to talk shit about anybody, really, except there's some people on the fringe. But who's going to talk shit about anybody right now?
Yeah.
So I almost feel like we're all on the same team now.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I think that it's still pretty polar, but here's, unfortunately, that on a smaller scale, but it relates to the humanity behind things, or the human factor, is how many of us buddies don't get around each other a ton anymore until somebody dies, and then family family or any of that stuff, right? You only come together in these like times of need, and the 9/10 to 9/12 thing was a perfect example of the similarity of that. I'm afraid. I think that there's going to be a lot of unity that comes out of this, but there's also potentially going to be more division that's going to come from this too. And I hate the polarity behind things because I'm Team America.
Yeah, you got to look at the big picture. And patriotism has kind of gotten a bad rap. But
Yeah,
could be
how are you a racist if you're a patriot?
Yeah, you can be left, right, and still be a patriot and love this country.
Yes.
You can be far left, far right, and still love this country.
Yeah.
And
Right.
want what's best for it. And I submit to you that in 20 years, they're not going to be talking about this.
Right.
They'll vaguely mention these presidents. Like you said, it's right here in front of us, so we think, oh no, this is horrible. And I also submit my grandparents going to be the end of civilization because those kids, my parents, the 60s,
Yeah.
all of them
They're
drugs,
running the world.
sex and drugs, it's going to be horrible. Well,
Yeah.
country will never survive. It
Yeah.
survived.
Every generation seems to have that.
And then my
Yeah.
parents
Yeah.
get to us and like, oh, good Lord, the Gen Xers.
My grandmother,
Gen Xers.
my father's a musician, and my grandmother told my father, because he's told me this story many times. He's a big time musician. His idol is the Beatles. My son's name is Lennon.
Yeah.
After John Lennon. Anyway, you remember the video of the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show with their first United States appearance? These guys are wearing suits, and their hair is longer than all of ours. It's very clean cut. That my grandmother told my father and the rest of his bandmates that look at these long-haired punks from England,
hippies. Yeah.
dressed in suits,
Hippies.
singing about, hanging out with women and
Yeah.
I want to hold your hand and stuff like that. Anyway, here's that commercial. I want to play this because you probably haven't seen this in 100 years, but check this out. I just love this. Oh, those aren't brownstones. But
Those definitely are brownstones.
On September 11th, terrorists tried to change America forever.
Is that Ben Kupek?
it sounds
narrating?
like Kupek.
Well, they succeeded.
America, motherfucker! Holy dude, that's the way I feel about that. To your point about years from now, when you watch like really good movies or things that are historically accurate, and you look back, dude, this shit's been going on since the beginning of our country. It's just we get old enough to understand it.
Yeah.
And then we start thinking, oh, look, this is the end of the world.
Yeah, start projecting.
And you look at you got to go back and sometime and just watch like some highlights of debates from like JFK and Nixon, like in 1959, and they're arguing about the same goddamn shit.
No, they are. And back to this, like it was certainly a failure. I hope that people don't lose confidence in their their local emergency response agencies, whether it's EMS or fire, law enforcement, anything like that. But you also have to understand that, like, you, sir, are a veteran of Desert Storm, GWAT, 25 years of law enforcement experience. Those are kids that are up there on that long gun, and unfortunately, they have never been on that side of the rifle. That more than likely is the first time that they actually had to fire a shot against another person.
Yeah.
And we can't take that lightly either. That is an American citizen, and if they make a mistake, the stakes are so high that they'll never
It's
recover
their
from
life.
it.
Their life is over.
So they'll course correct, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I am very confident. I'm going to say, we've got a lot of mutual friends. I'm not going to say who I work for or anything, but that shit ain't happening on my team.
Yeah, we know something they don't know.
Yeah, and so look at this last point I want to make because I want to try to stick up for this. Is an Australian video, so the Aussies will report on stuff that the American,
Good Lord.
the American
Be nice.
mainstream. Be
Yes,
nice.
sir.
Okay, go ahead and play that. We might have to skip ahead a little bit.
From the chaos, have a look at the fumbling fumbleinas who comprise his
No.
security detail.
So kind of a dipshit comment. So they're focused on these two chicks right here. Pause it right there. So you got the girl on the left there, and you tell me because you mentioned earlier, the guys didn't have their pistols drawn when they were going around them.
But what a stereotypical image of Secret Service.
It really is. And so the girl on the left,
Melissa McCarthy.
anybody will tell you, we don't even have to play it because everybody's seen it. The girl is wound up. She's wound up. and she's struggling to put her gun in her holster, and she's a little disheveled, as we say. Do you think that that's because she's a woman or because she hasn't been trained enough?
No, she hadn't been desensitized. So we've been desensitized. First time or two that I got shot at, I didn't know whether to shit or wind my watch, you know? But
Right.
after it's happened a few times, you're just like, okay, you go through the motions. This is what's going to happen. To your point, those, with all due respect, those are kids to me,
Right.
you know? And, but yeah, I think, you know, you had said you're going to fall to your lowest level training. So I'm about 100% shooter, whether it be a handgun or with a rifle. I don't suck. You put me in a super high stress situation,
Rounds down range.
I'm looking at 80, 75, 80%. That's how much I'm going to degrade
Right.
just based on your stress response.
Sure.
Sure. And so it's mind-boggling to think that in this time where our country's coming together, our president or our former president, our Republican nominee, has just survived this terrible incident, obviously by a dude off on the fringes, you know, who's not supported by either party. He's just an idiot. To attack this chick who probably could be making way more money doing just about anything else.
Yeah.
She's a federal employee. She ain't banking. And she's poorly trained probably, or she's too inexperienced or something like that. That has
Inexperienced.
nothing to do with the fact that she's a chick.
No,
doesn't
it
even-
doesn't.
it
But I
doesn't
think
even
the
make any
argument,
sense.
No, but the argument that is coming out, and I have some sympathy for, there's some agreement, is did they bypass other people? I'm not saying that she has an inability to perform the job, but that they bypass people that are going to be much better at the job for the sake of
I
inequality or anything.
highly doubt it
I would
because
hope not.
because that would be against the law in some places, and it would be highly inappropriate. And a lot of people think that when you say, so there's a difference between exclusion and inclusion when you talk about DEI.
Sure, yes.
And so when somebody says, I want to have 30% women, one, I don't know what the statistics are of the particular agency and whether or not that's an appropriate goal, but there is an appropriate way to have a diverse police force, fire department force without overlooking more qualified
I
candidates.
do not disagree.
Yeah.
But as you like, if we're going to bring this back to sports, you know, if you're at the Super Bowl,
Sure.
are you not going to put everybody on the field that are starters? I'm not saying that they shouldn't be allowed. I'm just saying in certain aspects, why would you not have all of your A team there to provide A team type shit?
No, I don't
And I'm not saying she's not able to, but that is
Right.
the argument that people are saying, and it's
Right.
evident. And
So
I'm not saying
depends-
how I would perform in that position because I've never been in
Yeah.
that situation, so I'm not
where-
going to armchair quarterback.
So you're the concern, I think, is a valid concern. Anytime somebody talks about those types of initiatives, what matters is what steps did they take to get to their goal. If their goal is they want 30% women, there's nothing wrong with necessarily that being a goal. If there's nothing wrong with that. What matters is what steps did they take? If the steps were,
Right.
the hiring board has historically been 60-year-old white men, that's a problem. Because now you're setting it up to be exclusionary. You're setting it up to be exclusionary. So if we put more, let's put 30% women on the hiring board. Well, now at least we make the decision maybe a little bit more fair or
Yeah.
something
Yeah,
like that.
try to get rid of that implicit bias that those
Right.
guys
Right.
are going to have.
And I don't
But
think that
if they-
these girls here didn't fail at anything that they did. They may have not looked as smooth as as homie and low ready with his AR ready
But
to
if
do
they're
work.
exclusionary
But they
tactics,
didn't fail at their job.
No. But if the tactics to get to that goal were we have 10 open spots and I'm reserving 3 of those spots for females.
Sure.
That's where you become too inclusionary and less on of just working on the avoiding exclusionary, and it just depends on what the processes were.
Right.
And that I
that-
would agree that should always be something that's above the board
and that's
is
why
shared.
that's why I love the saying of exclude or shit. I said I love the saying and I just
Loves the
forgot
saying,
it.
you don't fucking remember it.
You're old.
Of opportunity, not inclusion, right? Like I want to give everybody
Equal
equality.
opportunity.
Equality.
Right.
The saying is, now that I've got it, it came back into my brain. I've been hitting the head a lot.
Equity and equality are not the same
Yeah,
thing.
I've been hitting the head. I need an equality of opportunity, not
Sure.
an equality of outcome.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And I agree. And so to make the jump, and then the other picture with the poor girl who looked like she was hiding behind, you're looking at a split second
Freeze frame.
frame. And I watched it, and there's no girl sitting there who's just hiding behind. You took that one picture.
Yeah. And the shit asses that
And
are all
try-
commenting
and I
on
think
that,
it's the same
They've
chick.
never been on the receiving end of rounds, and they've never been on the the gift of giving.
How many times do you screw up on the daily?
Oh, all day long. That's how humans learn.
And if somebody had a
How
picture,
many times is it on the national news?
Right.
Oh, man.
I screw up on the daily.
I don't feel for all of this.
I feel horrible for
Now.
these people.
Right, I absolutely do too, and I think that you know bringing your opinion. I mean, you got a hell of a career that you've had, Mark, and obviously you too, Zach. But this event, I do believe it's fundamentally changed our country. But it's almost like I feel the people who I feel the worst for is this poor fire chief who took around and is dead, his whole family. And then
There's two more
and then the
Americans that
two
are
other
criti-
people who
critically
sounds like
injured,
they're
yeah.
critical.
Yeah.
Those are the people who I care.
I think there was I don't know much about him. I don't know. And maybe you have some more information. One of them was an elderly guy that took a round to the belly and one to the leg. And that, we're going to talk about all these different injuries. And people always talk about like entrance and exit wounds and everything. And as a paramedic, I don't assume any of that. They just have penetrating wounds, right? Mm-hmm. And it's entirely possible that one went through Trump's ear and into homie's leg.
Check.
Because that bullet, that was a 5.56 or a 223 or
It's
something.
screaming
It was
along.
AR style, rifle. And so, but there was an elderly guy that took one to the belly and one to the leg. And then there was another person who I am unaware of any of the injuries. And it sounds like Chief Corey had an ER physician who did everything he could, and he was real shook up after the event. They were interviewing him, and he's got blood all over his shirt. And he was in, and I know that he probably agreed to do the interview, but he was in no position to be interviewed. And I wish that they wouldn't have even talked to him about that.
Yeah.
Because you could tell that he was rocked.
He was shook, yeah. But there are some injuries that you can receive in the ER, and you're not going to make
well,
it.
and he knew that, and the ER doctor knew that.
Yeah.
We have in medicine, if you've got visible brain matter like that, that is considered trauma incompatible with life,
Right.
and you don't have to do anything. And if that patient would have came into his emergency department, he wouldn't have done anything. But since he was in a stand full of other Americans and his family and everything, he's
I'm
going
guilty
to
of that.
He's going to do everything he
I've
can.
done CPR on dead people because the family's standing around. I mean,
Hey, me too, sir. Yes, sir.
show code, as we say, which is a terrible thing. Lennon, play this just a little bit more. I want to see what else they were trying to knock these.
they may irritate me.
See, she's trying to put that, and she just, but she has the wherewithal to give up. She didn't have an AD.
Podcast, Brad Palumbo. Brad, what's going on with these secret
Oh my God, who's that
service
guy?
agents? I mean, they can't holster their guns. They're more concerned with securing their sunglasses than securing Donald Trump. They're running around like chooks without
So,
heads.
what Sky News is that like an Australian Fox News?
Have a serious inquisition inside the Secret Service, which is a federal agency. Because
Lennon, you
He's
can-
not Australian, though, is he?
I don't know. Hover forward
I
or
hate
skip
to
forward. What, skip
Talk bad
forward.
about your alma mater here.
So where
but
there's
what's going on?
is there any video of the
massive failure, both of strategic and execution and planning on behalf of the Secret Service, and also former presidents.
they gave that guy a pulpit, didn't they? Yeah, you can turn
They
that off.
did.
Look up that other link that I sent you. Go ahead.
And what the fuck does this guy know?
That's what I'm saying. And everybody and medical. Hey, you guys should have done this. You guys should have done that. What do you do for a living? Oh, I'm deputy county commissioner. What do you know about medical? I said, well, I cut off the end of my finger one time when I was cutting
yeah.
hay.
I want to be very clear here. I'm not a shooter. I know how to shoot, but that is not my role. I'm not an entry operator. I'm not a sniper. I'm not a police officer.
Yeah.
I'm in medical. So I hope that nothing I said tonight comes across as me trying to act
Oh, it
like
does.
I know what
It does. The comments are.
fine.
I thought this picture was fake when I saw it, but the New York Times posted it
wow.
and they validated it and said that's a legit picture. One of the camera guys must have turned his camera on.
He's got 1,000 frames per second video.
on some
that he got
super high
a
speed.
single speed.
Well, that's what
you know,
we
single
look
shot.
at in too, is when you're at really long ranges, and we really did it in the military, is you're looking at the vapor trail. You'll see the vapor trail going while you're
Sure.
on spotter.
Yeah.
You will.
Doing that.
Ah,
If it's
I've never seen
long
that.
if it's long enough
Long
range,
enough range,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
I can adjust.
So
my
you think
shooter.
that this is more of a vapor trail as opposed to just a stretched out, you know?
a stretched out bullet?
Well, I don't mean stretched out in real time. I just mean because it's just catching
Yeah.
the way the frame rate is of the camera or something.
He hasn't even. This frame rate is so close. President Trump hasn't even reacted to it yet.
Barely, almost flinching now, almost flinching. His hands going up. But yeah, he had. That's how fast it was.
And that bullet nicked him so close that hasn't even started to tumble.
No, yeah,
That's
yeah,
still in a direct line of travel,
right?
right? From a ballistic
and
standpoint.
what if that was the same bullet that killed that other dude?
could have been.
I mean, I that bullet certainly impacted somebody else. I don't know if it is the one that killed him, but if I'm a betting man, which I'm not, I don't even set foot in a casino. But if I was a betting man, those first 3 rounds are the only rounds that shooter got off.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I thought he shot them all. I thought because they sound exactly the same. And
I mean, maybe,
the
but
snipers,
if he got those other, 6 or 7 rounds off that came afterwards,
There'd be more people.
they
down.
were not. Even if they were from his rifle, they were not on a target.
And I only
you know
say
what I'm
that
saying?
be-
He was just
and I
doing
only say that
something.
because they sounded exactly the same, and the snipers had suppressed rifles.
Yeah, but the local law enforcement that was climbing up that ladder, he probably didn't.
Not if he's using a handgun, but
He probably
He may have had an AR, an unsuppressed AR, which would have sounded exactly the same from the exact same area within the 20 foot of each other. And
Sure.
so what I'm thinking is those first 3 rounds came from that sniper. I mean, came from the shooter. Pop, pop, pop. And then the next like pop, 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 pop came from law enforcement that was now on the roof. And then there's 1 or 2 shots that may come from.
Or it could have just been he got shot after the third one, and as he's kind of fumbling around.
Well, the
and he just
order of
shot
shots
shot it into the air all those times, you know.
Well, yeah, but but it's not an automatic gun.
Yeah, but
you
he
know?
could have just.
I mean, maybe so.
Yeah.
And he may have just gone pop, 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 and then pop, 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 and then a sniper grabbed him
I
or
can give you a
something.
more definitive answer when the FBI's report comes.
That I think
Yeah.
that is a very important
Right.
part is that we
I'm not
should
gonna
wait
even
for
try to guess.
we should wait for the investigation. You're
Otherwise,
absolutely right. I probably shouldn't have said it.
I'm getting into the suck here.
Well, yeah, when it gets into it's just like we say in aviation accidents, speculating too much at the beginning is sometimes can do a disservice. But what I really wanted to have you on for, and I really think that you've done a good job of explaining is that what the mindset is of those snipers that are up there, because they're really the ones who seem to be taking the biggest hit right now. And from my uneducated sniper opinion, those fucking guys did a great job. Given those 4 guys, the 2 sniper teams, given the information they had, how could you possibly react any quicker given the situation?
Yeah, especially if that guy just crested the top. They had a split second. He got 3 rounds off, and they dumped him.
And they
Don't know that happened.
And the 2 that are on the video, they may not even had a shot ever
To take, yeah.
And so they're being crucified from here on out.
Right.
And that's terrible to me. I hate to hear
Yeah,
any of that.
it's just like a soldier or something like that. I mean, you're a federal asset of some sort. I mean, they make a wage, but these guys aren't gazillionaires. They're doing this because they want to. They're doing a service to their country, right? They're having to deal with the federal bureaucracy for all of their payroll and health care and all this other shit because they love their job, right? And they, in my opinion, those 4 guys, I'm assuming it is because the other 2 people, I don't know if there was a female up there, but those 4 sniper folks, I couldn't think that fast. And if their lowest level of training is to respond that quickly to such a confusing
The fog of war.
threat,
Yeah, but
To
we
be able to
can't.
get
We
through
also we can't underestimate that they're not. I mean, we're not in Ramadi. They're not taking shots into a 3-story clay building that is shooting back, right? These are fellow Americans, and they understand that, and they appreciate that, and the level of scrutiny is so much worse here. And I really feel for all of these guys because they were tasked with at least the U.S. Secret Service in that interior perimeter were tasked with a very difficult job. They did their job.
Yep.
And there was a failure on the outside, and they're the ones that are being hung up for it right now. And I feel for them, man.
I do. The report will come out if there was any, where the failures were, if there were any. And
unfortunately, people aren't going to believe it.
Well,
we've already gotten to a point where people are going to say, "This is another JFK. We're not going. This is a moon landing."
Oh yeah.
They're not going to believe
But you're
these
never going to
reports.
fix that. You're never going to fix that.
You're right. You're right.
Facts
Why should
don't affect it.
that's a great point. I appreciate that. Is why should we worry so much about these naysayers?
The
and stuff?
lunatic fringe.
Yeah, we know the lunatic fringe. You know, why should we even listen to it?
Final word. What's this picture? Lennon, you tried not this one. Where's the picture at? What the hell is that?
That's a dead guy. I've seen a lot of those.
Yeah, I think he got shot in the mouth.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The video I seen from him looks like he took one right in the mouth, which gives a new meaning to, or not a new meaning, but a very accurate meaning of shoot him in the face.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, this wasn't
the snipers say, shoot him in the fucking face.
Yeah.
He
want a
took
central
one.
nervous system shot.
Yeah, this wasn't the final word, but yeah, click on those 2 pictures. Click on the first one. And so this is look at this dipshit. And so when you go over one more picture, I thought that it was so interesting. Does it click over? I thought that it was so interesting. Well, at least on the video of this guy's obviously down for the count, right?
DRT.
But yep, dead right there. But one of these guys, one of these law enforcement, I felt very proud that they still ripped his hand around like they were going to cuff him.
Well, that's
even though
the
his head's
thing. I
probably
mean, that's
gone.
supposed to.
I know, but at some point, it's obviously
I know, but they're not medical professionals, and we get that shit all the time.
No, I know. I'm not disagreeing with it. I'm just saying that I felt very empowered by that's their
suspect
their
in custody, not suspect dead. You know,
right?
So 10-4.
Pull up picture like on the 2. Did you pull that up? No, like pics 2 at the bottom there. Breaker.
Crooks was apparently shot in the
on
head. If he was taken.
I said
that's all they could see
pics
of
2.
him.
That's all right.
At the picture.
Oh my gosh.
Not that one, but yeah, that one's
Yeah,
cool.
not that one.
What is this one?
I recognize that building though.
Yeah, that's me and my entry partner.
Yeah, I know him too.
Yeah, he's
God bless
he's
Colorado at the moment.
He's chief of police somewhere.
Yeah.
But he's a good guy. We did a lot.
Oh, he's a solid dude.
He is a solid dude and big. He played college football, giant guy. I'm a little fella.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So no. Let's try this again. The final word. What is going on here?
What is?
Is that a stuffed animal?
No, that's a calf. So
It is.
bought a bunch of cows. The owner said, "Well, this calf goes to this cow," and we took them all. And I had one cow that was raising cane and one calf raising cane. Didn't want to have anything to do with them, so I knew I got the wrong calf.
And so you threw him in. Is that a minivan? Or is that a pickup truck? What is
That's
that?
my pickup. Yeah, I just threw him in the back seat. And he and I went and found his mama and got the right calf.
There ain't much more Oklahoma than that
Yeah,
right there.
yeah.
I'll tell you.
I'm
From a fellow cowboy, that's 2020 cowboy in right there.
Yeah, it's not all about shooting and everything. We got lives outside of what we do for a living.
That's right.
Absolutely. We got to unplug.
Roger.
And if that's throwing calves in the cab of the truck, I guess that's one way to do it. Mark, man, you said it all, dude. I think you come with a level of expertise that I could only dream about. And I think that's an interesting thing. We kind of end on that, or maybe you can give me your thoughts on it. That you are an expert at something, and it's just got to drive you up a wall when you've spent your whole life, and everything about who you are is special tactics, ballistics, firearms, and shooting, and to see it kind of go down like this has got to be disappointing. The way people are reacting,
it is. It's disappointing. But again, it's one of those things where there's a certain. I don't want to say stupidity, but ignorance. There's a certain ignorance, and just because you have an opinion doesn't mean I need to hear it. I think there's a saying that says you should always speak the truth, but the truth doesn't always need to be spoken. So if you have an opinion, you might keep it to yourself until you have enough facts to know that you're speaking the truth.
Yeah, and I've got two quick things. So you mentioned ignorance right there, and I'm in this education environment frequently, and words and terms mean something, and ignorance doesn't necessarily have to have a negative connotation to it. It just means that you don't know. And I think there's plenty of people that don't know something, but they have a platform to still say it.
I think people
Right.
don't know that ignorant means that you just don't know. I think they think it's an insult.
And so what I'm saying is that even people that are putting things out onto social media right now may not feel a negative connotation to what they're doing. There may not be a negative bias to what they're doing. They're just ignorant to the fact, and it sure comes across to the people in the know as an aggressive statement or whatever. And the second thing I'll say is it is very evident by the way that you talk tonight that you are an absolute expert in your craft, and that you have committed your life to self-service to service of others. And I appreciate your commitment for your entire adult life, it sounds like.
Pretty close. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again, man. We'll
Love
come up with some other dumb shit, and
Sure.
and you can come in and set the record straight.
Yeah, because we
Looking forward to
we
it.
say a lot of ignorant shit, right?
Yeah, if it's not related to a paramedic or published research, I'm probably saying it wrong.
Yeah.
I say shit wrong all the time when it comes to certain things, and man, the viewers will call me out, and they'll call me out on this, and there'll probably be some trolls who try to knock you in these comments. But
sure.
I mean,
We don't read the comments. That's
I'm sitting here
end
looking
goal.
at a 27-page resume that tells me that what you're saying is on point. So thanks for coming in, dude.
Thank you for having me.
We'll do it again.
Sounds fun.
Hey, be good to one another, everybody.
Yeah, what he said. Lennon, you got anything else to say?
No.
That's how we sign off every time.
Sounds great.
All right, man.
Take care.